All right, here we go on a Friday morning. Morning, everybody. See, DC's been in earliest. Anthony, morning, guys. Little Perfect Strangers going on the radio intro. Patrick looks pumped. Bill's going to be doing the afternoon today. I've needed this. We've needed this inspirational too over the last, 15 months now? I don't know what it is exactly. But Perfect Strangers has been there for us time in, time out, Patrick. A show that predates you. Music that clearly predates you. Theme song that might be one of the cheesiest of all time with the harmonica.
Still never seen an episode.
Still never seen an episode. Love it. But nothing can stop you anyway. It just warms my heart. But I say that because I don't feel like I need the extra boost that the Perfect Strangers theme song always gives me today, because we got NCAA tournament baseball in town at noon on a Friday. And not only do we have that, we got a couple of name brand teams that I saw do battle a decade ago at the College World Series, and I saw what just has become the trend. The Gamecocks win a couple of games against en route to a national championship in Carolina and Virginia, and I'm really looking forward to it today for multiple reasons. You give me a quizzical look there, sir?
How is Virginia like one of the more notable baseball programs?
Certainly in ACC circles, because I don't know if you were part of that discussion or not. I'm guessing not, because it was several years ago. You know, the ACC didn't win a national championship. They had one, a grand total of one. And it was like in 1950 something by Wake Forest. Forever. Until Brian O'Connor and Virginia broke that streak several years ago. Now, it looked to me like they were en route to doing that in 2011. They had a really, really good team, and Carolina played a couple of really good games and dramatic games and knocked them off in the College World Series and the semifinals on the way to taking on Florida in that dramatic national championship series and winning that thing back in 2011. So, yeah, a very notable program. Brian O'Connor, especially notable to Gamecock fans, because I think during the transition between Chad Holbrook and Mark Kingston, that's when Virginia, I think, won their national championship, certainly right in it. Actually, it was Kevin O'Sullivan winning one as well, which kind of solidified him staying at Florida. It was Brian O'Connor coming off the heels of a national championship, I think, and clearly being one of the best coaches in the country. But notably, Virginia hasn't been back in the NCAA tournament since 2017. Notably, Carolina baseball hasn't hosted an NCAA regional since 2016, and that all changes today at noon with a fantastic pitching matchup with Brett Carey going on the hill for the Gamecocks, kind of not coming out of nowhere, but really coming on strong for Carolina late in the season and being moved to the starting rotation and getting the Gamecocks their only complete game shutout since 2014 when Will Crow did it. And then Virginia counters with one of the best left-handers in the country, second in strikeouts in the country. Andrew Abbott will take the mound for the Cavaliers today. Patrick, how do you feel about the matchup? Let's start there, because we were talking, you go through the numbers and you can make a case kind of either way. With Brett Carey on the hill for the Gamecocks, you got to feel good about Carolina's chances, right? And Virginia is that rare team in all of baseball these days that we heard it from Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Mead. They don't strike out much. They try not to strike out much. They try to avoid the strikeout, put the ball in play. So from that standpoint, maybe that seems like a pretty good matchup for Brett Carey, actually, because he's not necessarily a strikeout guy. He is a pitcher. You hear it a lot of times, right? There's a big difference between a pitcher and a thrower, and Brett Carey is a great example from the Gamecocks of a pitcher. Michael Roth was a tremendous example for the Gamecocks national championship teams as a pitcher. A guy just knew how to get outs. Andrew Abbott, on the other hand, is a guy who's going to strike you out and is second in the country in that category. And this Gamecock baseball team has struggled with strikeouts from the offensive perspective, but it's a right-handed heavy lineup. Andrew Abbott is a lefty, so from that standpoint, I think it's a pretty good matchup. Also, the Gamecocks at home, a favorable draw from that standpoint. Going to be really interesting to me. Patrick, how do you see that?
Well, I would feel great. I mean, I'm just looking at, because I don't think Brett Carey's really had a bad outing all year, has he? I mean, he's been good pretty much every time he's pitched this year. I'm looking through his.
You got his numbers in there. What's the ERA again?
I was looking at game by
game.
game.
The ones. I'll double check that for you, but you can't have an ERA as low as Brett Carey does and have had bad outings. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's a 1.9.
Thought it was 1.9.
Yeah. So I'm just I'm looking. He's only given up more than one run 1, 2, 3, 4 times this year. I mean, and he's only got 2 losses, Texas and Ole Miss, and I mean he's just been as solid as you can be all year long. It's kind of shocking it took so long. In hindsight, it's kind of shocking it took so long for him to get a start. But anytime he's on the mound, I just think you have to feel good. He's been so good all year, and I mean, 6 innings, 9 innings, 7 innings. Like, he's taking you deep. He's dominating. You have to feel good at game one. I'm glad they didn't try to get fancy and say, well, this matchup is better or whatever. I mean, I guess it actually, the way you've been explaining it, he does match up better, even outside of just the fact that he is your best pitcher. So game one, I don't follow Virginia. I didn't know enough about them. They're hot, but it doesn't matter. You're always going to feel great with Brett Carey on the mound, I think.
Jim over in Carolina Beach, Clemson fan, knows his ACC. So didn't North Carolina play in the national championship game 2 years in a row, losing to Oregon both years? Oregon State. Close, Jim. But yeah, that was part of the head-scratching stat of that one national championship in the conference for so long. Also, Florida State being.
That's what I was thinking. I thought Florida State was great.
Yeah, College World Series appearances and never being able to pull one out. North Carolina, the same thing, not just making it to the College World Series, but those national championship games / rounds series. Never quite able to make it happen, but Virginia did. And now Virginia in an all-important first game at the NCAA Regional. I've said it several times this week specifically. It was one of the most impressive parts of the Ray Tanner era, how consistent Carolina was in these first-round games. That when you don't win your first-round game in the NCAA Regional, it's not impossible to win the thing, but, man, it makes it so much more difficult. Instead of playing 3 games, possibly winning all 3 games, you are guaranteed to play at least 5. You got to play 5 games. You got to win 4 of them. You got to go on a 4-game win streak after losing and roll through the losers bracket. Now, the Gamecocks have some pitching depth for sure, but just for comparison's sake, Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball did I think went through every regional, did relatively generic previews. He gave the best bullpen to Virginia in this regional. He gave the best pitch to Virginia in this regional. I think that's pretty notable. Best defense to Virginia in this regional. Best lineup to Old Dominion. There's Old Dominion as the 1 seed coming in. Everything they've done, a 40% chance to win this thing. He gave the Gamecocks and Virginia each a 30% chance to win it. So it's
how many things did he give up? How many accolades did he give out?
What do you mean accolades?
When you're saying the best offense, best bullpen, best whatever, did South Carolina get best anything?
No, I don't think so. I'll go back and look. But
best stadium,
best home field advantage here for sure. And the way these things work out from paper and then on the field, always fascinating, right? The 4th team in the regional is Jacksonville, which has the worst record in all the regional, but rolled through the ASUN tournament. And it would be a massive upset if they could knock off Old Dominion. It's kind of doing what you talked about, Patrick, not throwing their ace in game number one, trying to set that thing up for game number two, and the winner, they presume, they're assuming, of Carolina. I would assume the Gamecocks are probably going to go with Brandon Jordan in game number two and keep basically their weekend rotation, which was late in the season, game number one, Brett Carey, and Brandon Jordan game two, and Thomas Farr game number three. Will Sanders, how he's used, been another guy who started on the weekend for Carolina and also been a closer. That's going to be fascinating to see. And then offensively is really, I think, where Gamecock fans are kind of on the edge of their seats, wouldn't you say, Patrick? Because of the trend this year. Been a really good offense at times, but it has absolutely disappeared at other times, especially against top line pitching, and the Gamecocks going to see one of those guys tonight.
Yeah, that is everything. That's what's freaking you out. I mean, you don't want to look ahead, but also when you hear like Old Dominion leading the nation in home runs, you think, okay, well, Brett Carey gets it done today. What are we looking at against Old Dominion? Like that is a scary sight, and too many times it's relied on hope you being a home run hitting team, and if you can't get the home runs, straining lots of guys on the bases like that. That is for sure the fear. And every time there's a break like this, I get worried. Like the rest versus rust thing, I always get worried about that. And it's almost like you just cross your fingers and hope you come back and the guys are seeing the ball well, and it doesn't end up being an issue. But the rust factor always worries me. But at least in this case, everyone's coming back with basically the same amount of time off. So it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, except Virginia playing its best baseball of the year down the stretch here. Old Dominion, notably going on the road to Louisiana Tech and winning its Conference USA tournament, doing it on someone else's field against a pretty good team in Louisiana Tech. So feeling good about its chances to continue that trend for sure. Just for like a zoom out national look, I'm not sure if it was D1 baseball as well, but I saw that the regionals were ranked 1 through 16, just on basically the strength of the entire regional. Did you see that at all, Patrick? You see the number that's
I saw you retweeted something about the TCU one. I didn't see the South Carolina one.
Retweeted that one first, so you just missed that one. What would you guess the South Carolina regional is ranked from basically like a power rankings 1 through 16 just for the entire region?
Like 12.
That would be a good guess. Old Dominion gets the number 11 seed, 14 overall is out of the 16. So one of the weakest three is how at least one national entity has rated this thing from a power ranking standpoint. The TCU regional, do you have that up in front of you? I'll double check it. It was pretty low as well. I believe it might have been 11th. Just to do that from a comparison standpoint. Number one is the Knoxville regional. That Fort Worth regional, TCU is actually 12th. So two of the weaker regionals is how at least NCAA baseball fans who rated these things, the power rankings, or it looks like it might have come from another service stat report or a preseason statistics might have all combined to do these things. But looking at the records in the last 15 games specifically and then the RPIs, probably most weight there. Just to give you guys some numbers from the last 15 games in that ranking, the Old Dominion Monarchs there 12-3, the Gamecocks 7-8, Virginia 10-5, and then it was the Jacksonville Dolphins there, the way they got there winning the tournament 9-6 in their last 15 games.
The strength of the regionals, I don't really know what to make of that. Like theoretically, the strongest one should be the 16 seed. Is that how it should be? Like if you're the number one seed, you should have the easiest path. See, your region should be the weakest, but also you're the best team, so that adds it up. Like I don't know how to consume that data at all.
Well, check out then the Knoxville regional. Just ridiculous. So Tennessee finished number 5 RPI. They've got Duke, Liberty, and Wright State in their region. Everyone has won double digits in their last 15 games, including Tennessee in the SEC, right? They're 10-5, and that's the worst record in the last 15 of the regional. Duke's 13-2. Liberty's 12-3. Wright State is 14-1. And so their 4 seed, the 4 seed in that regional, has number 27 RPI in the country compared to the number 200 plus RPI in Jacksonville. That's the tricky part of this NCAA tournament committee, right? You got to set things up as fairly as possible. I was surprised they gave SEC teams 7 host sites. Then you got to set up the next round so you don't get too many conference opponents playing each other. Then you also got to send teams to some regional sites that make some kind of sense from a travel standpoint, right? From a regional standpoint, from a money standpoint. And then you try to do it as fairly as possible. I know Tennessee fans have a real beef about this one. I mean, a legitimate complaint when you see the worst team in your regional as a number 36 RPI and number 4 seed, who Tennessee obviously plays today, 27th RPI in the country, 14-1 in their last 15 games. So I bring those up simply to say that if you make a tournament, you're probably playing well this time of year. And the Gamecocks a bit of the exception, right? Having lost 4 of their last 5 series and 7 and 8 in their last 15, but had done plenty enough starting 10-5 in conference play, playing the schedule they played to get into the tournament. That's why the controversy is a little bit too hard, but the conversation about them hosting the tournament was where it was. But the Gamecocks trying to take advantage today. Patrick, I'm really interested to see if Carolina doesn't score early, which has been a trend against a top-line starter like Andrew Abbott, the environment at Founders Park. I'm taking the 6 and 8-year-old today. My dad's going as well. We're really looking forward to it. But the feel, is it going to be one of those, hey, we're behind you, let's get things going? Or I feel like that after a few innings turns into, hey, we got to do it now, guys. Get it, make an adjustment kind of thing. So just exactly how the home field advantage comes into play today is going to be fascinating to see at Founders Park, in my opinion, Patrick.
Well, yeah. What kind of crowd are you expecting? I don't even know what to expect if for a middle
numbers
of the day.
Wise, you're saying?
Yeah. Because it's already a short week. I can't imagine as many people as usual will be taking off work. If it was a full 5-day week, people would probably be cutting out at lunchtime, but I don't know if that's going to be possible for everyone.
Well, and also if you're a number 1 seed and you have been dominant and you're feeling very confident going in, well, you would be playing a non-name brand team in a 4 seed 1-4 matchup. So maybe not so much on a Friday, but typically you would have the night game, much easier for people to get to. The way this story goes is that ESPN chose Carolina and Virginia to be that noon game to put them on national TV, a couple of name brands, and that's why it's a noon game. Yeah, it's not ideal from the home crowd advantage, but I would say you're going to get one of the better crowds for sure at Founders Park this year, since 100% capacity hasn't even been an option until the last few weeks. But if I had to put a number on it, I would guess, I don't know, 4,500, somewhere in there, maybe 5,500. What about you? You got a ballpark there? Just spitball?
That sounds good to me. I wouldn't even have really known how to begin to guess that. I don't know what kind of Virginia contingent to expect either, like how well they travel. How far is Charlottesville? 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that?
I think it's a little bit more than that. It's
about 5 or 6.
It's up there. And especially with where we are coming out of the COVID situation, I think it's really nearly impossible to handicap these things.
Yeah.
And then where this Gamecock baseball program is now, needing as much support as it can get. And Skylar Meade was talking yesterday Wednesday when we had him on, the pitching coach for Carolina, about how he was impressed with the fans in the Tennessee series, I think specifically being behind his team and giving them the boost that they needed. We'll see if the Gamecocks and the Gamecock fans can do today. What kind of team we're going to get, what kind of matchup we're going to get. On paper, sets up fantastic for that noon game. Of course, we're going to have it for you right here on 107.5. The game starts at 11:45. Our pregame coverage will preempt the local shows, and then Bill Gunter will be filling in for Heath Klein right after that, taking you on your drive home this afternoon. Patrick Brett helping to fill in for Bill this morning. Jen Jensen holding things down, producing from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Good to see our favorite 86-year-old caller up early with us and fired up on the Love Chevy phone lines. We'll hear from Gamecock Larry when we come back. Other headlines this morning that we're going to get to, plenty out there. A new Twitter deal to allow college athletes to earn some money. LeBron James out the NBA playoffs in the first round for the first time. Chris H. wanted to point that out on the Facebook live stream, up and rolling on YouTube Live and Twitter as well. The station handle at 1075 The Game. If you want to add the video stream sponsored by Buford Lending to your morning experience. Hope your Friday's off to a good start. It's the early game here on 1075 The Game.
1075.
Morning, Jimmy. Travis, Jordan. I don't think I've seen you up early with us before. Morning, Jordan. David, hope you can survive without Bill this morning.
Are we going to get anyone checking into the live stream from Converse Park this morning?
Oh, great call. I'm guessing it'll be a little early. Oh, my crew's going to head over right after. I'd say 11 a.m. this morning, 10:30, 10:45, prime time. But
Yeah,
the tailgate scene probably better afterwards than before.
it's unfortunate at the timing because then everyone will be tailgating to the Dan Patrick Show, which is not as good as tailgating to local coverage.
True.
There's something great about tailgating to local radio. I always love it.
The way it should be.
Yeah, just even if it's walking around listening to the pregame show in the parking lot here, like football games when I'm wandering around while they're getting through it.
Even if it's Bill. I mean, it's better than nothing.
Even if it's Bill. People can show up anytime, right? To baseball today?
I don't know when they're open in the parking lot. It's a good question.
There's places people can get in without.
What is it?
I don't think they can block off the whole thing, can they? I would also just get a ride and bring a styrofoam cooler.
Be right back.
Yeah, I listened to this whole podcast, Travis. It was interesting. I knew listening to it. I listened to it the day it came out, and as soon as he said that, I knew that was going to get clipped. But it was still like a long, pretty interesting interview. Johnny Manziel was quite honest with the fact that he does not like football at all anymore, and that's was a big part of it. I don't think he wants to give Theismann back.
All right. Did you kick him off finally, Patrick?
What's that?
He's back.
He's back. I didn't say anything wrong.
Got my pops down here. If you guys want to send along.
Getting ready.
Excellent. So you decided to bring an expert in?
Yeah. We were up watching the hockey game last night. We're doing our Bill Gunter impression watching the Hurricanes. All right, so we got our youngest and oldest callers on the line. Beautiful.
That's quite the span.
I hope the Hurricanes can.
Has this kid call in? I think he's 7 or 8. You're right. My dad just asked about the youngest callers. Like, you don't make him wait as long as Gamecock Larry, dude.
They probably have about the same attention span or, patience span.
Maturity level.
Yeah, right.
Sean's pretty sharp.
Yeah, he is. I think it's first day of summer break for him, so he's pretty.
Oh, nice. My kids wrapped up school yesterday too.
So naturally, he's awake at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I know. They have 2 more friends. Benji does too. They're not up there, are they? You hadn't heard any kids though. No, Travis, Gamecock Larry was mad at us the other day. Said we made him wait 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it's one particular texter that said it's the low point of everyone's career.
Yes, old Ted will take any opportunity just to help us out. If that's the low point of my career, I'm gonna have a much better career than I thought.
Uh-huh. Did he actually Ted or did he actually text in?
Yeah.
A different one.
I don't know if it's Ted. I just know it said.
Okay.
I'm sure you could check if you really wanted to. Bill would definitely do it.
All right.
Yeah, keeping 86-year-old on hold 80% of the show is the low point of y'all's career.
I would agree. Typically, theoretically, he's right. But when he calls every day,
right,
we show.
And we know for a fact he's not doing anything else, but
he tells us.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure we're the only show that puts him on.
Yes.
I asked Bill one time about that texter, former caller. I said, do I ever want to meet him in person? He said, no. No.
He lets him on depending on the situation.
Does he?
DC, we need to give him the link one day. I don't know. That kind of ruins the mystique, though, right? It's like in the Wizard of Oz. I don't know if that would be a wise move.
No, because you don't want to see him, taking his pills, checking his sugar, All right, we're heading back.
Great one, the way you put it the other day.
Yeah, right. I know what I can do while I'm on hold.
Hope it wasn't the boys.
Hey guys, are
up and rolling early on a Friday morning. You guys are going to get the full spectrum of the early game in this little segment here, because on the Love Chevrolet phone lines right now, our oldest and youngest callers. And we will start out of respect to our favorite 86-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry, who I assume is fired up this morning about Gamecock baseball, but an informant via the Cool Care Heating and Air text line tells me he might have gotten Gamecock Larry fired up about Mike Krzyzewski for some reason. So you never know where Gamecock Larry's going to go. I'm just hoping you're feeling well this morning, Larry. How you doing, sir?
Feeling good. Got a feeling. I got a feeling, boy. I'll tell you, I'm waiting on it. But, I got to say the Root Hog. What about texting the show, this final score in that Gilbert Indians game last night? I understand Gilbert might have got the hammer thrown back at him.
Wait a second. Gamecock Larry, you're talking junk about a high school team that has 16-year-old players on it, local high school. You don't want the local high school team to do well because of your personal rivalry with one member of the Legion of Doom there and Root Hog. Is that correct?
Let me tell you something. When I play to win. When I talk to win. But I ain't been winning. Okay, but let's get off of that. No, I want everybody to win as long as they're not playing my team. But I understand old Root Hog's been giving me a hard time. Well, I tell you what, I don't know, but I think the Indians got the hammer thrown back at them. But let's talk about this baseball. Carolina Gamecocks. I called a couple of my friends in Dalton, Georgia yesterday, old Bulldog fans. And they saying the same thing the Clemson fans saying. You shouldn't have got a chance to host. Well, all of you Clemson fans, Bulldog fans, we going and you staying. And we're going to leave. I'm not going to predict anything. But I'm going to say, I think, no, I'm going to say it like it is. We're going to go to TCU or wherever that is, and we're going to see all you fans that's crying in your water, your milk, your beer, and everything else. We're going to see all you fans sitting back home, and we're going to be in Omaha. That's about all I got to say. Bulldogs, Bulldogs, Clemson. Too bad, so sad. Go Gamecocks.
What about Coach K?
Huh?
Yeah, we heard that you might have been fired up this morning and for some reason about Coach K retiring, announcing his retirement. No, that was bad information we got, Gamecock Larry. That was bad information. He went out on top and dropped the mic. Well done. Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are following the high school baseball, Gilbert did lose last night in Game 2 of their state championship series to West Oak. That'll set up the rubber match for the championship at USC Upstate Saturday at 1. Congratulations on the high school baseball front to AC Flora, another state championship. That program continues to just keep on rolling. That is your high school baseball update for the morning.
Four Hole Swamp doesn't have a baseball team.
Gamecock Larry, when he plays, he plays to win.
Just him, yeah.
Okay. I know another guy who does that as well. It's our youngest caller on the phone now. We go from our favorite 86-year-old caller to our favorite 8-year-old caller, I believe. Sean, you're 8, right, Sean?
No, I'm not 8.
7?
I'm 9.
9. Oh, my fault. I missed a birthday there, Sean. I got to put it on my calendar. How you feeling this morning, sir?
I'm feeling great.
Excellent. And I assume it's because of Gamecock baseball going to get played today?
Yes, sir.
Wait a second, Sean. We can't have your dad telling you what to say the whole time here. I need to hear just from you. What do you think about the Gamecocks and Virginia and then Old Dominion part of this thing, Gamecock baseball? How are they going to play this weekend?
I think they're going to play awesome.
Nice. Who do you think will be leading the way? Can you give me a name, Sean? Do you have a name out there, or do you think the bats will be better, the pitching will be better? What do you think?
I think the pitching.
All right. Brett Carey gets the start today and has the first chance. What else you got, Sean?
I wanted to call you to say that I think you, Tim, Patrick, Bill, and Jen for all your hard work.
Gosh.
And you know how everyone is still in school?
Maybe not everyone, Sean.
I'm not in school.
Attaboy, congratulations. Was yesterday your last day?
No, not yesterday, May 21st.
Oh, man, you're a veteran. You've been out of school forever. Let's see. If you're 9, that means you just get done with the 3rd grade, or you get done the 2nd grade?
3rd grade.
All right.
I'm going into 4th.
All right, we're talking to a 4th grader. Well done, Sean. Appreciate you weighing in today and balancing us out this morning. You want to give your final a final go Gamecocks to everybody out there as we say goodbye?
Go Gamecocks!
All right. Sean is fired up this morning. That's
a lot of energy. Gamecock Larry sounded like he was all the first I'm feeling good. There was a lot of pep in that one.
Patrick,
Sounded like $1 million.
I mentioned it earlier. It's nothing like Memorial Day, right? We had the 3-day weekend. Some people had 4-day weekend. Everything that holiday entails, obviously, much greater in scope. But it's holiday baseball this weekend. It is a holiday feel, and for the first time in 5 years, Gamecock baseball gets to host, and Gamecock fans should be fired up on both ends of the spectrum. We hear the more experienced Larry, maybe not quite as experienced, even though he is going into 4th grade now. Sean, pumped up about Carolina baseball this morning. Noon, again, game number 1, 11:45 airtime here on 107.5 The Game. Some people pumped up, I'm seeing on the live video chat right now, about LeBron James losing in the first round last night for the first time in his career. The Phoenix Suns eliminate the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll get into that. Also, Johnny Manziel says he made a decent living selling autographs while in college, but not until he won the Heisman Trophy. So don't take his Heisman Trophy away from him. And future athletes now going to be able to make money off of Twitter. And I'm wondering if this is going to change the entire way that we get post-game reaction in college athletics. We'll explain as we move on this morning. Glad you're a part of the program. 803-404-6100. That's the number that Gamecock Larry and Sean knows by heart on the Love Chevy phone lines. Feel free to call us there or text us at that same number, 404-6100. The Cool Care Heating and Air text line up and rolling as well here on the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
It's a new year.
Driven
in a new attitude.
I want guys that want to be here, not just going out there to hire.
Ready to prove to people that we can do some special things here.
New attitude.
I do think things always miss me.
Good ear on the energy there, Pat.
This is it. There's no other talk in the country. I would have left for it.
Okay. So it's just the speaker in the studio that's on. Have you ever listened to that podcast?
I'm not. Pretty good.
I mean, I have it on my page, like, depending on who the guest is. If I'm intrigued by the guest, I'll listen to it.
Right.
But I like Will Compton. He was a Redskin for a little while, and Taylor Lewan I hated because I thought he was a dirty player, but he's okay. I don't care for them going back and forth. I'm just interested in the guests because they usually are pretty loose.
Huh.
The players talking to other players, they open up a little bit more. Clearly, with Johnny Manziel, but it wasn't.
That'll go right until this Twitter thing too.
Yeah, it wasn't just Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel does a podcast with Mike Stud, who's a rapper. Well, was a rapper. I don't know if he still makes music.
Huh.
And of course, the whole signing autographs thing was kind of a throwaway part of the discussion, and he says he's told it before, but that was the only thing that really got picked up from it.
Right. What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a rated PG podcast, Travis.
Oh, I was wondering what he's talking about. I didn't even know.
It's very much a rated R podcast. That's the podcast that Mike Vrabel famously said that he would cut off his Johnson for a Super Bowl.
Wow. No wonder he's on your list of likable coaches.
Oh, he's hilarious. Yeah, he lets go.
So not kid friendly.
No, definitely not. He had Dale Jr. on one episode. That was probably the most family friendly that's gonna get.
Boy, Lee's text couldn't be more opposite of what you said about Manziel. Oh, wow.
Well, that's like the biggest part about the podcast was him talking about how, like, he hated the attention that he got.
Oh, it's awesome. I'm glad you listened to it. We'll definitely get to that at some point here. I'm good, thank you. Thank you. So that would have been the sure. Right. 36 years ago. Right. Wow.
All right, 10 back in.
Definitely yours. Wow. I didn't realize Booker had 47.
Oh, yeah.
Guys are up.
First time ever, LeBron James out in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Happened last night. 47 points leading the way for Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns. Patrick, I didn't even know the Phoenix Suns were worth a dang until about 2 weeks ago, where I saw they were the number 2 seed. Yeah. Well, how the heck did that happen? I thought they were a joke in the NBA. Just shows you how quickly that can change. And so does this. I didn't see this coming. I just thought it was kind of almost predetermined that LeBron James is going to make it to, if not the conference finals, then the NBA finals. It seems like it's been a tradition. How many, what's that number there? Was he made 10 or 11 NBA finals, I think?
Something like that. I know he went to, I think, 8 straight.
Unreal. And done it with different teams and different organizations at different times. I figured coming off of last year's bubble championship that the Lakers would figure it out once they got healthy. I guess maybe the problem is Anthony Davis never really got healthy, and the Suns taking advantage last night, bouncing the Lakers in 6 games, 113-100. Devin Booker, 47 points, and LeBron James out for the first time in the first round. What do you make of it? A bunch of people commenting this morning, for instance. This is Anthony, who hit us up, says, "Morning, guys. The Lakers deserve to lose that series when you traded most of your backup players from last year's team, Rondo, Dwight Howard, etc."
Yeah, I just couldn't disagree with that more. I think that's LeBron apologist to the max because, yeah, I mean, they lost Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard. They lost Dwight Howard, but they brought in Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers, who's better than Dwight Howard right now. They acquired Andre Drummond, who's one of the most dominant centers in the league, and he still played pretty well. I mean, it came down to Anthony Davis not being healthy. Somebody put it in the chat earlier, but do you see Charles Barkley's been calling him street clothes? Calls him Anthony Street Clothes Davis now. And Draymond Green's been on the panel for these TNT games, which has been very funny. He's just cracking up. They're just killing Anthony Davis. And I gotta agree. Anthony Davis might actually be soft. Maybe it's has to do with his he's so tall and skinny, like maybe his frame just isn't able to handle that type of stuff. But that's also why they got Drummond, because Anthony Davis hates playing the 5. He just wants to be a power forward. He doesn't like having to match up defensively. But the bottom line is this is maybe the first time we've seen LeBron be a little bit human. Normally in situations like this, he even said in Game 5, if I need to carry more weight for this team, I will. And he wasn't able to do it. So I think the big storyline from these playoffs, aside from the Nets just being outrageous and a super team, and they're probably going to roll through the whole thing, is a little bit of a changing of the guard in the NBA with Trae Young really having an incredible series against the Knicks and MSG. It's going to go down as one of those like Reggie Miller-esque things with the way the Garden was against him, and he just made them look like fools. He was great. The Nuggets are fantastic. Jason Tatum was great in the East, even though they lost. It's just kind of like the next young batch of players is coming up right now, and we're starting to see LeBron. Like this could potentially be the beginning of the end for LeBron James. And I don't know what the Lakers are going to do. I'm sure they'll acquire somebody next year and make it a little bit easier for him. But the days of LeBron being able to just single-handedly carry a team to the finals are over. And I'm happy to see it. I've never been a LeBron guy, so I love seeing him get bounced in round one.
He's 36 years old. This was his 15th year in the playoffs, and the first time he's out in the first round. Now, he did just come off of something unprecedented last year, being the first ever player to win a Finals MVP with 3 different franchises. But that was the shortened bubble season. It was a little
Mickey
different.
Mouse NBA Finals.
Oh,
Okay, not giving him full credit there. I get it. This year, it was a groin strain most recently for Anthony Davis, but he had a calf issue, some Achilles problems throughout the season, and it was that kind of year where I think LeBron missed 26 games total with a bad ankle, and Anthony Davis had missed at least 30 games. I think he missed 30 games in a row towards the end of the season, or maybe it's right in the middle. So it was a struggle for the Lakers from start to finish, and they couldn't flip that switch when it came playoff time. And Devin Booker, a big reason why, with 47 points last night, Phoenix Suns over the LA Lakers. To me, it makes the NBA playoffs more interesting, not less. You talk about Trae Young as exciting a player as you get. See the Atlanta Hawks moving on in the playoffs, the Phoenix Suns moving on in the playoffs, franchises that have just been suffering for a while. This takes me back to Tom Chambers and Kevin Johnson playing for the Phoenix Suns, Thunder Dan Marley, maybe Jeff Hornacek. Last time I feel like they were halfway decent. Then Dominique Wilkins' days of Spud Webb and John Concack, Kevin Willis of the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, if you're going to be old guy and go way back to the last time, I feel like these two franchises were relevant in the NBA playoffs. I don't think anybody feels bad for LeBron unless you are a specific LeBron fan. And I feel like that's very similar to the way we took in the Coach K news from yesterday. Most basketball fans, I think, out there, not necessarily Coach K fans, and happy to see him move on. Did you see that weird beginning of the press conference yesterday, Patrick?
Oh, yeah.
I felt like it was his daughters and his wife planning something. It looked like a press conference, or instead of a press conference, it looked like a retirement shower where they played. What was the song they played?
Every time we touch by Cascada.
yeah. What?
And he
It's like
was
a
doing the
middle school
arm,
classic for people my age.
doing the arm pump thing. Like, what?
It was
Weird.
bizarre.
It just shows you that
Clapping.
after a bunch of success, you can live in a different world and lose complete touch with reality. That's what I got yesterday. We'll probably be out of touch. Now we're number 2 coming up next.
This is Gamecock Athletics Director Ray Tanner, and you're listening to 107.5 The Game.
Made me think of like a political rally almost, like the candidate comes up and they're clapping.
Great call, Jed. That uncomfortable scene is very much like a political rally. Like in all of them, I'm always like, all right, what are people gearing up towards? Like,
Right.
maybe it's like pep rally in school. Like, okay, this is a pep rally about the big game. I got it.
Right.
Wait a
What's
second.
the big game?
Right. This is a pep rally about voting? Well, I don't get it. To go in and click a box? This is what I'm getting all fired up for?
Right.
So weird. And like, how do you, man, you're going to get enough celebration. Don't do it at your press conference. I mean, who was it most recently that announced their retirement emotionally? Who am I thinking of? Oh, Paul Maneri, the LSU baseball coach. Like, that is a retirement press conference, man, talking about how much the game has meant to you and being emotional and the whole thing. Not pumping your arms going in with your daughters and your wife, the only people in the crowd doing that too. That was so weird.
I hate everything about what he's doing.
Well,
I hope
to be
everyone
very
agrees.
transparent, there was going to be nothing about Coach K's retirement that you like, no matter what, right?
Other than the fact that he's retiring, you're happy about
Right.
that.
Well, if he wasn't doing a victory lap, I would
Right.
be pumped with it. Yeah, I don't like those. I hated Whitney with Derek Jeter. I thought that was the most annoying thing in the world. Every team like somebody's giving him like a kayak before the game and just like all these ridiculous things.
Yeah, the one that I remember is Kareem. Kareem did it back in the day, and like opposing people would give him a rock. I remember somebody gave him a rocking chair to be hilarious. Like he's an old man and sat in it before the game and waved. Yeah, much credit to Roy Williams, huh? He just pieces it out, hands it off to Hubert, and says, "See ya."
There is a 1,000,000% chance LeBron is going to have a victory tour when it's his last season.
Are you kidding me?
With his ego, good grief. Yeah.
He might retire to a different team and do it the next year too.
He's gonna start hinting that it might be his last season just so that people start talking about it and talking about how great his career is, and that's who he is.
He might put it out there that he wants to get into the front office after retirement and be recruited by other franchises in his last year of playing retirement. Like, he would be that guy.
I hope just this year everyone that Duke plays agrees we're not doing a Coach K send-off. It's just going to be too – I would just be annoyed.
It's going to happen, Patrick. Sorry.
I'm not watching it.
I think Maryland will probably have the biggest send-off. The most.
They won't do anything because Coach K won't schedule Maryland because he's salty that they left the ACC. Maryland fans hate him. He said he would never schedule them again. I wonder if now that he's gone, John Shire might schedule a Maryland game because.
Oh, do you know how old John Shire is, by the way?
33. Same age K was when he took over at Duke.
I was talking about it with my dad last night. He's like, "Yeah, John Shire's younger than you." Then I looked up, 10 years younger than me.
Can you see this? Can you see this? Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
That's my cousin. My dad sent me that yesterday. That was my cousin got on ESPN back when Shire was on Duke's team.
That's fantastic.
Shire was famous for having basically.
Oh, karma kicked him off the live stream.
Shire was famous for having like the worst, like borderline crying in the middle of the game faces.
Oh yeah. But apparently he and Coach K control the internet because they booted you off as you're trying to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there was talk that Brad Stevens said that, if he ever left and decided he was going to come back to college basketball, Duke would probably be the only place. Well, clearly that's not going to happen if Shire's so young.
Yeah.
There's no way they want him to stay.
Yeah.
People are saying that Brad Stevens is probably just going to take a couple years off and then he'll get the itch again.
Yeah.
Depending on what his salary is, a front office role, if he's still raking in like several $1 million a year in the front office, there's no shot he's going back to coach. I've also heard people say that once you leave college basketball and coach in the NBA, there's no shot you're going back to college basketball. The NBA job is just so cushy and easy compared to what the grind of college basketball is.
All that recruiting and
yeah. Unless it's just something that's like, oh, I need that like competitive aspect in my life.
And the kids are getting a little bit older, so it might be easier to go back to those college roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question, Craig. He No, he was older than 33, right? He looked really young. Do you remember, Jen, when he left Butler, how old Stevens was? I think he was in his 40s.
No, he wasn't that old because he's only like
44.
44 right now.
My
Yeah,
age, too?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Goodness. Do you know what year he left Butler and went to Boston?
Was it 5 years ago? More than that, huh?
8 years ago.
Is it that long?
2013. He coached at Butler 7 to 13. I would have guessed like 16, 17, something like that.
So he would have been 36-ish when he did that? Pretty close, correct?
Yeah, he's 44, yeah.
75.
Man.
Pops it just
I have a caller wanting to talk about the NBA Finals.
Okay. Yeah, Ronnie, I mean, they might not have chemistry, but like also LeBron picks those players. It's not a talent thing. I mean, like Andre Drummond is an all-star. So when you say they lost Dwight Howard, so it's the Lakers' own fault, but they got Andre Drummond back, like it's not a talent thing. Dennis Schroeder is going to be $100 million player. I don't think he's worth it, but he's going to be.
I've not heard about Khalil, but I'd be shocked if he doesn't. All right, so the challenge here, Patrick, is not doing the LeBron James thing, but making sure it doesn't take over the show for everybody who doesn't give a dang about the NBA. Well, Craig, I'll take the over. 3 is awfully low. 3.5, that's a more interesting number for sure.
Yeah, guys are up.
Starting hour number 2, over under 3 Gamecock runs today. Craig, on the Facebook live stream, not a lot of confidence in the offense. I think it does. It's very realistic knowing they're going against Andrew Abbott, a guy who is second in the country in strikeouts, but has a much higher ERA than who the Gamecocks are throwing today. I think you got to give Brett Carey his just due going on the mound. I think we might see a really quick noon game this afternoon where runs will be at a premium. I think both teams will be playing to manufacture and bunt a guy over, get a guy in scoring position. To me, might come down to just who gets those hits with runners in scoring position. Unfortunately for the Gamecocks, especially as of late, Patrick, Carolina hasn't been that team. But let's not overstate Virginia this year. They're a 3 seed in this regional for a reason. And I think playing at home ultimately will give Carolina the edge going in and having Brett Carey on the mound, a big part of that as well for today's noon game. Airtime will be right here at 11:45 on 107.5 again.
Hasn't it been several outings since Abbott gave up a run, though?
I think it's 28 consecutive innings.
20, yeah. So is 3 that low? I mean,
yes, only because it's a 9-inning game, and the odds of Abbott going all 9 innings aren't that good. Now, the bullpen for Virginia is pretty good, but I know if we go back through those game ones in SEC play, there's a case to be made that 3 is a really good number to put the over-under at. But there has been a significant layoff. We heard Skylar Meade say he was going to basically do his Andrew Abbott impersonation on Wednesday during practice as a left-handed pitcher. And Skylar played for a Louisville team that made the College World Series back in the day. And specifically preparing for one pitcher, having time to do it, having a right-handed heavy lineup like the Gamecocks do. I think they're going to be as prepared as possible. Now it'll be a matter of execute. And I think this team has shown us when the odds are kind of against them, and they have the chance to be disappointing, completely deflating, and kind of fall off the ledge this year, that's when they stood up. That's what I've seen. Now, it hasn't been a team that's been able to carry that momentum necessarily and get big-time series wins, but they've been good enough to not go the other way. A loss today, I think, has them going in that other direction, if that makes sense to you. It's a massive game for a lot of different reasons, man. First of all, just from the regional standpoint, you win game one, you set yourself up. You keep yourself in contention to win this thing. You lose game one is really difficult to go through the loser's bracket, even as a number one seed. The Gamecocks did it. I think they lost game two the last time they were at home against UNC Wilmington, had enough to get back through the loser's bracket to win that thing and then eventually bow out to Oklahoma State in super regionals. But it's rare. And with Old Dominion coming in with leading the country in home runs, knowing how Founders Park will allow home runs, Virginia and its talent kind of up and down the line being, I think, at least as good or a little bit better than a lot of 3 seeds out there, plenty of postseason success in that program's history. It sets up as a fascinating regional for sure. And you mentioned it in hour number 1. We heard from our oldest and youngest callers out there in one segment, in Gamecock Larry and 9-year-old Sean. The energy and excitement in their voices. It's like a holiday feel for Gamecock fans, and it should be. Will be interesting to see what kind of environment you see with Founders Park today. Looking forward to being out there with my kids. They're pumped up about it for sure. Heading out with my dad a little bit later on. Looking forward to Gamecock baseball, NCAA tournament Gamecock baseball, which is when I think Gamecock fans recognize, like, this is when it really matters and when you can really have a home field advantage. And in years past, you've certainly seen really good environments for Gamecock baseball this time of year. I get it that there has been a drought with the College World Series since, and you haven't seen a home playoff game, home NCAA postseason game, is how Mark Kingston would certainly prefer to hear it as well, in 5 years. So the noon game today on a Friday against, I think it helps that you get a name brand like Virginia, right? The time, obviously not ideal, but everybody coming out of not having the opportunity to get to the ballpark, or certainly not at 100% capacity, it makes for an interesting environment for sure for today's game. Again, noon, and the pitching matchup should be fantastic. Brett Carey against Virginia's Andrew Abbott. But not the only conversation on the program today, with LeBron James bowing out in the first round of the NBA playoffs for the first time last night, 113-100, Phoenix over LA. A lot of you from the comment perspective, plenty happy to see that. Patrick, you actually heard this podcast episode, and you can give us some perspective on that, because Lee hit us up a little bit earlier. He says, the Johnny Football News, who really cares? It's a guy that couldn't hack it anywhere he played professionally, just trying to stay in the news. If no one talked about him, he would be forgotten. Why do you think he said that? Because he's irrelevant. And the greatest thing this year was to watch Flop-Bron, he says, instead of LeBron, lose in the NBA playoffs. You give me a different type of background about that Johnny Manziel comment that caught a bunch of national media attention.
Yeah, I mean, because the context of it was not really, like, he wasn't dropping that in there trying to necessarily make headlines. I can't remember exactly how it started, but they had talked about Reggie Bush. They were talking about Tim Tebow and him meeting Tebow at the Heisman, things like that, but talking about how it's messed up that Reggie Bush lost his house, or lost his Heisman because they bought his mom a house, and just kind of how unfair it was. And they were all just to get, like, they're all players on that podcast. It's 2 NFL players, and Manziel was the guest. And they were just talking got brought up, but he said that somebody bumped into him after his Heisman year. Somebody bumped into him at the airport and said, "Hey, do you want to make X amount of money?" I think it was like $3,000 or something like that. Come to my house and sign a bunch of things. And that's what Johnny Manziel did. He just went to that guy's house after bumping into him at the airport and signed a bunch of autographs that he made money off of. So that was the context of it, but it was not like that was such a minor part of the interview. I thought it was a pretty interesting interview overall, but the majority of it was Johnny Manziel talking about how the level of fame and everything he got, it obviously got to his head, but how it just made him hate football. Like that he just was not interested at all. He totally fell out of love with the game. And when he came back and did his kind of redemption tour in the CFL, he realized, I just am not enjoying this at all. Then he went to the AAF, which fizzled out after a couple of weeks, but just talking about how he was such a huge star, couldn't do anything. Like people were always all over him. I mean, he truly was like one of the biggest names in all of sports, even when he wasn't playing. And just talking about how he just really didn't love the game. And it was interesting because Taylor Lewan hosts that podcast and was drafted the same year as him, and had an interesting perspective on what it was like to be in the Johnny Manziel class. Will Compton was undrafted out of Nebraska. He's the other co-host of that podcast, and gave the perspective of like, hey, I was undrafted and I'm sitting here looking at this guy who was drafted the first round, made millions of dollars, just completely throwing away his opportunity when I had to start from the bottom and just grind the whole time to make the team and live out my dream, and thought it was like almost disrespectful to me the way Johnny Manziel acted. So it was a pretty candid conversation about Johnny being like, yeah, I mean, I was just a punk kid that was good at football. Things came easy, but I really didn't love it. Maybe if I had come back with a different perspective now, like things would have gone better, but I just didn't care. And he said, I don't really have any regrets on how I'm doing things. Talked about how he's actually pursuing golf, loves playing golf every day, has a 0 handicap, and has legitimate aspirations of being a professional golfer and works really hard at it. So it was an interesting conversation, but I'm not surprised that headline is what got grabbed, but it was such a kind of throwaway part of the conversation that really isn't what the interview was about. And he said he's told that story before, so I'm not sure if that's the first time it's ever publicly been out, but it is a big podcast, so that might be the first time that people really became aware of it.
Well, that decent living, I think, getting kind of the headlines there, because as you mentioned, that $3,000 offer first, apparently somebody came back to him after that, so getting ripped off. I can get you $30,000 if you come to this hotel room, sign things, then I'll give you the code to the safe, and you can get 30 grand. And when that type of number, I think, pops out, that's where Jen just perked up for sure. And I think that's when those who are trying to make decent livings ourselves, that starts to change the conversation a little bit. But it's a nuanced one.
Yeah. He said at the time, I was sitting there waiting for the $400 stipend to come in at the beginning of the month. So he's like, I would have done anything at that point.
Wait a second, but this is and I need to go and listen to that conversation to understand it completely. But Johnny Manziel comes from a pretty well-off
rich family, yeah.
It sounds to me like he's playing the victim in this conversation a little bit too much. Is that not how off to you? You heard it. I'm just hearing.
I didn't think so. I mean, it was really like a very quick conversation where he was just like, yeah, this guy bumped into me at the airport. I was coming back.
No, I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about his entire story, how he couldn't do anything because he was such a big star.
I don't think he even said that. I think he just kind of threw it away. Like he just said, oh, $3,000? Yeah, sure, I'll take that. I'm waiting for the stipend to come in. So yeah, right. Sure.
When he knew it was against the rules. He knew it.
Yeah.
I mean, he put his whole program in jeopardy doing that. Was there no accountability for that?
Well, I think the way they made it was just everybody does that. So I don't think anybody thinks of it as I'm putting the program in jeopardy.
Well, then they're being irresponsible. And that's basically Johnny Manziel's legacy. I get it. He was a tremendous football player. I love watching him play. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you don't get the nickname Johnny Football for no reason.
Well, Taylor Lewan responded too and said he never got like directly paid because he was an offensive lineman and it wasn't like the sexy position. But he said, I mean, I definitely got lots of free meals out of people. So
right.
Well, he was like, I was just excited to get free meals.
He's that guy that matched up with Clowney in the Outback Bowl.
Yeah.
And pretty much shut Jadeveon Clowney down, except for one play where, as the story goes, the tight end was supposed to block Clowney on the hit. And obviously that didn't happen. And then you saw Vincent Smith's head explode. Fortunately, it was just his helmet that went flying off. But that's what really irks me about these conversations. And I am really excited to hear more of them. And I think we're going to, with the other news yesterday, that there's a new Twitter deal out there that will help athletes earn money for putting up their own videos on Twitter. Several big-time schools have already signed up with this service. And I think we're going to get much more candid response as opposed to what we typically get, where it looks like guys are being held against their will to answer any kind of post-game questions, and they want to do it. They've been instructed to do it as vanilla as possible and make sure you come off as respectful and you don't give any kind of bulletin board material and the whole thing. And from a fan standpoint, we suffer. I think this is going to be great from the fan standpoint. I think it's also going to change the game of media forever if this actually goes through. And I'm fascinated to see how many athletes will be candid, give their candid post-game thoughts that will include being frustrated and upset and having a beef with another player or team or the whole thing. Because as I read this yesterday, this new Twitter deal will pay athletes according to how many people watch these videos. I translate that to, okay, how honest are you going to be? And if you're putting out your own post-game video of your own reaction, you're going to be that guy who is actually honest and says things that other people will take offense, and then they will retweet, and the numbers will grow, and so will the money from this. It makes for a fascinating environment that there are a lot of different layers to. We'll get into them as we move on this morning. 803-404-6100 if you would like to join. Also, the SEC yesterday passing the rule that in-conference transfers will now be allowed, and will also follow that NCAA rule of having a one-time exemption. So SEC free agency is here, man. It is here, and about 8-10 guys became basically immediately eligible yesterday with this rule passing, including former LSU tight end Eric Gilbert moving over to Georgia. So a lot of things to get to, and that college athletics landscape is changing. And Coach K says that's not the reason he's heading out, but I think it certainly contributed to that. But he's seen it change a bunch in his lifetime. So I can buy that to some degree. I think it's one of the reasons that Dan Mullen was talking about going to the NFL, saying how much things are going to change. And I think that's the main reason he got paid $1.5 million more and got signed to a contract extension, because I think he and I'm guessing other college coaches out there see this thing and they say, man, just professional football would be so much less of a headache. I think I would prefer to do that unless you get paid $1.5 million more. Again, 803-404-6100 if you'd like to join the Friday extravaganza. Bill Gunter will be filling in for Heath Klein after today's baseball game. So Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen holding it down with me here. I'm Tim Hill. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. What do we got now? Mark confident, sir, about the Gamecocks today. Chris, you got us advertising other podcasts now. Hold on just a second. Bussin' with the boys, Barstool Sports. Yes, that is correct. Patrick Craig is looking for your NFL draft forecasting about Eric Gilbert and Washington there, Florida.
At Georgia.
Is it Devin Washington? Is that right?
Darnell Washington.
Darnell.
Yeah. They are just. I mean, Darnell Washington. Free. They're just freaky athletes. Neither of them did. I mean, Washington, I think probably caught less than 10 balls last year, but you can see what kind of kind of athlete he is. He's just so large, and his high school highlights are outrageous. It's just both of them are just complete. I think tight ends, guys like that, have probably the most ridiculous highlight tapes, other than maybe like pass rushers who obviously cannot get blocked, and it takes 5 kids trying to stop them and just slow them down. But seeing Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington, who are 50 pounds heavier, 6 inches taller, and 10 times faster than everyone on the field is just a wild thing to watch.
So I'm asking someone who texted in, and this is part of the conundrum of the text line. Why it's really tricky on my end. Someone texted us, I'm a physical therapist. Anthony Davis had a kinetic chain injury from Achilles to calf to knee to groin. He was never going to be the same after that Achilles strain from last year's bubble playoffs and short offseason. So that could be a very qualified medical opinion, or that could be some Yahoo that is 14 years old saying, yeah, I'm a physical therapist.
Or it could be a physical therapist that is just trying to be a know-it-all and actually doesn't know what they're talking about because they've not actually examined his knee or his Achilles.
A physical therapist who absolutely despises LeBron James.
Yeah.
Just sees it that way.
I think people also just, when it's something is in remotely their area of expertise, they want to give their 2 cents because they think it's necessary. But pretty sure Anthony Davis has had himself examined.
So I just responded, what about the extended period of rest there?
He had an extended period of rest.
Should be 100% by next season's opening night. There you go.
Whatever.
So that's what I try to avoid, Patrick, unless there's nothing Gamecock going on, because that's what the national shows are all going to be talking about today, right? So just trying not to have the Dan Patrick show before the Dan Patrick show, unless it has specific implications on us, which the LeBron thing doesn't. And with the other things in the news, that's where I try to kind of differentiate it this morning for us, especially with baseball going at noon. Because I know there's still a lot of people in Columbia that are more than willing to get into that LeBron discussion and are interested in it. But then there's also that portion that absolutely could not care less and will immediately turn things off, trying to keep them in too, And I'm one of those. Bill is a better person to ask about this, even though he hasn't been to Founders Park in a while. But I think this might be the first game I'm going to as a fan in Founders Park. Yeah, it is today.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I went to some Sarge Fry games as a fan, as a student, but then all of my games since then have been in a working capacity, typically being the camera guy standing behind the plate for WOLO for years and years. But there's not a bad seat there, John, I think is what you're asking. That was the great thing about how they built that park, right? It's a college baseball park where you don't have bad seats.
I would agree.
What about stadiums that size, right? I mean, it's still one of the bigger college baseball parks, but college baseball parks, unless they're really old, usually don't have bad seats.
And there's no seats available for today's game, correct?
Did you say no seats? No,
No seats?
There are seats available. But John, if you're a baseball fan, I recommend it. If you're a Gamecock fan, I recommend going this weekend specifically.
Exactly. All right, we're back. You're up.
What do you do if you're a college athlete in 2021? Name, likeness, image. Name, image, and likeness. We call it an NLI or NIL. I think we're calling it NLI. National letter of intent is where I get confused. So I think maybe it's NIL when you're talking about name, image, and likeness. There's a new Twitter deal out there. There's a company that's already partnered up with dozens of athletic departments, including, let's see, let me give you some names there. LSU in the SEC, Ohio State, Texas, Nebraska. Open Doors is the name of this company. It is co-founded by a former Nebraska football player. And what they do is they're going to figure out basically exactly how much a specific tweet is worth based off of how many people see this thing. And they're going to give a cut of it to the specific athlete. And the more people that look at these tweets that are produced specifically by these athletes, the more money they can make. So my question, Patrick, is what do you do if you're one of these student athletes? Because the quote here, let me give the quote from this company. This fall, when a college sports fan is scrolling through Twitter, they're going to see a video from their favorite student athlete, and that video could be that athlete providing a post-game recap, their thoughts on the game they just played. The fan hits play on that video, they'll see a 5 to 15 to 30-second advertisement before the video plays. The difference between that video this fall and that video today is that video this fall will now result in compensation directly to that student athlete. In the quote. To me, I see this as a power struggle now between what does the sports information department do? They're typically in charge of making specific athletes available to us, media nerds, and then passed on to you, right? This is when South Carolina puts a certain amount of guys on the podium after a game, and they put these videos out on their YouTube page, on their social media pages. This is how old school media, print media, which is now print and digital media, get their quotes for games. Hey, what did you think of this specific play? Give us your perspective, the play that changed the game one way or another. So now how's it going to work? What would you do if you're an athlete in this situation, Patrick? You seem maybe confused just about the concept in general.
Yeah, because I don't we see guys it has to be a spot. It's sponsored, so you don't even have to be following the guys to see this because Twitter just throws up sponsored ads. But is the player agreeing with the particular? The way I saw it is that a brand will formulate a campaign for you. So if they said, "Hey, we're going to have the weekly Luke Doty press conference sponsored by Under Armour after every South Carolina game," is that what you think this means? Because it's not we see players all the time after games. I really don't see that many college football players saying, "I'm going to get in my dorm room and I'm going to turn my camera on and I'm going to give a 5-minute breakdown of how I thought we played today." I just don't see players doing that. But we do see lots of guys.
Wait. They don't do it now. But if that means $100, if that means $500, if that, the more people look at that, the more money you get. I mean, isn't that instant motivation to do that? Right? What a struggle, right? What a struggle it's going to be from a coaching perspective too. Is a school that has this deal? These schools have these deals in place? So are they only going to be able to? Are they only going to approve certain players to do this? Right? Ohio State and LSU and Texas. These guys have big time sports information departments, very similar to South Carolina. They make sure that public comments are only portrayed in a certain way, right? Been able to do that. What do you do now? Are we only going to get then these kind of school-sponsored press conferences out there on Twitter? I mean, I go back to Jake Bentley, and this was a main complaint from especially those of us in the media that wanted to get more information, or maybe I don't even put it out that way, wanted to kind of get a more complete picture of the response to certain plays and the whole thing. When Will Muschamp would throw Jake Bentley out before his weekly press conference, week in and week out in the season, and you don't hear from an offensive coordinator. Well, if you're a quarterback at a big-time university, I got to think you're going to get a lot of clicks about your thoughts going into a game, your thoughts coming out of a game. How would you not go back to your dorm room, your apartment, whatever, and then be motivated to give your honest thoughts as much as possible and to get as many clicks out there? And then I think this just is fascinating on so many different levels, Patrick.
I just don't see it really happening because I think there's a lot more money on Instagram, and if you're a big enough name that people are going to care about your however long post game wrap up, that's being paid, and another company's taking a piece out of it. I just don't see that being motivation enough for a kid to not just say, look, I can easily just take a picture with a product, put hashtag ad on my Instagram profile, and I'll make however much money. Like, that's so much easier than sitting there and doing a full breakdown. Like, I don't think that many guys are going to be pumped up to do that, and coaches are going to say it's not a great idea for you to do this, and I'm sure there will be discussions about it. They can't tell a kid you're not allowed to do this. But I just don't see the post game part of it. I don't really see that becoming a thing. I'd be surprised if there were lots of guys around the country doing long breakdowns. Like everyone was enamored when we saw Deshaun Watson going in depth explaining what coverages he saw on certain plays to reporters, and I can't really picture any guys doing that.
No, I don't understand why you're getting the long breakdown thing. I don't think that'll be the
No, it'll be like probably 2 minutes then, maybe.
I think it could be 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. Did you see what that guy did to me? I hate that guy now on the other team. You telling me that wouldn't get a bunch of retweets immediately?
Yeah, this is what really happened.
I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to happen.
This is what really happened.
Did you see that winning play? I want to talk about that game-winning play let's talk about that. Did you see what I did there? And you won't get the, I just want to give credit to my teammates and they're blocking well for me.
But if it has to be a campaign, then I think you have to probably make it more official. Because, I mean, we see guys all the time in the locker room doing live streams of the celebration of the locker room. Like, is that going to be sponsored now? Is that what we're talking about here? Because the way I saw it is you're going to agree with a company that's going to say after every game, you're going to sit down for a couple minutes and you're going to give us this whatever. It's going to be an advertising campaign more so than just, hey, if DJ Uiagalelei goes and does a video after the game, even if it's just him walking around the locker room making jokes with the guys and watching Dabo break dance in the locker room after a win, is that sponsored too?
Yeah.
It sounds like it has to be because sponsored, you have to follow people to see their tweets normally. Sponsored means that an advertiser is paying to show this to people that don't even follow it.
Right.
That's why I say Instagram has more money because or you can make more money because if you have 100,000 followers and you do ads sponsored content on your Instagram page, people that don't follow you aren't seeing that. Only your followers see that. So it's something that people actually seek out, and it's more quantifiable, how big your pull is. Where if you only have 10,000 followers on Twitter, but you're doing a sponsored ad, millions of people are probably going to see it because Nike or whoever is paying to push that out to people that don't already follow you.
To me, it just opens up the possibility for so many different things. Jimmy D hits me up on Twitter at TimHill1075, says, is that money banked for them until after the college career is over or a weekly payout? That's, again, part of the details, I think, set to be worked out. NCAA is set to pass some legislation, I think, to try to make this across the board instead of what it is setting up to be right now, state by state specific. There's so many details, but we're on the kind of the edge of this thing happening in the next calendar year, the next sports year coming up in just a couple of months with football season. There's a lot to be worked out in the interim. Love to hear some more of your thoughts at 803-404-6100. You can call or text. Also up and rolling on the live video streams, Facebook, YouTube Live, bunch of you weighing in there, and Twitter as well. The station handle is at 1075 The Game. You're listening to the Early Game.
And new head football coach Shane Beamer, part of Certified today.
I recommend you go to ZeroResColumbia.com right now and check out what Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning can do for you. I know what they can do for you because they've done it for me a couple of times. They've been out to my house and cleaned my carpets, cleaned an area rug for me, also freshened up the tile in both the kitchen and bathroom. Really impressed my wife with the results, which made me happy for sure. And what helped us become big fans of Zero Res. We got a 1-year-old right now who's wearing us out all over the place, picking up anything off the floors, putting it in his mouth. Yesterday, couldn't keep up with them, and there might have been some mystery things in there. He's fine. He's good. He's also kid number 3. We got the 6 and the 8-year-old always rolling around. No harsh chemicals involved in the Zero Res process is why I mentioned this. So we had nothing to worry about when it came to our kids being on our carpets or surfaces right after they were clean because of Zero Res's patented powered water system. They crank up the pH in the water. You can go to that ZeroResColumbia.com right now, find out all the details. Also, you'll find out no leftover soapy residue. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. And you get a great deal right now. 3 rooms of carpet clean, only $119, plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. Again, you can book your appointment online right now at ZeroResColumbia.com. Give them a call at 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Good question, Chris. We'll get into it when we get back. Only for Power 5 schools? No, they say dozens of schools. I don't know exactly if they're all Power 5. I'm guessing not. American John is worried about the strife these kids will cause between each other or on the team. There's going to be strife, John, for sure. And good morning, Hope. Game day is right. She's pumped. And Miss Gamecock Larry, who was pumped up earlier. And 9-year-old Sean. So, Patrick, what number would you put? I mentioned 4,500. I think it'll probably be a little bit more than that today at Founders Park. What's your guess?
5,000. 6,000. Go high.
Go 6. Good for you.
People want to get out there.
And yeah, Mac knows all about the best way to watch baseball at Founders. He's been to a bunch of them. Mac may or may not be famous/infamous on the SEC network from a few years ago, chasing after a home run ball. Maybe 2, I think is how it went. I'll let Mac tell you that story if he wants to. But also, he knows how it looks from the concession stand too, helping to raise some money for the was it KC Civitans? Is that right? West Columbia, maybe? Oh, nice work, Hope. You heard both of those earlier? You just were holding out on us on the live stream. Okay. JC's. My apologies, Matt. My apologies. You guys, is it JC's versus Civitans? You guys got a rivalry there? Is that how that works? So, Patrick, why do you say there's more money in Instagram? Help me out here. I like your 5-year-old expertise because I got nothing.
Well, just the way, like if you're super famous, or you have a ton of followers. Just the way the sponsored advertising on Twitter works is weird. Like, I don't know. You don't necessarily have to have a social media presence to still get paid to do sponsored content on Twitter.
I got it, but
Whereas if your brand is big,
sorry,
and there's a middleman.
How you figure? Help me out.
Well, the brand you're already sponsored. What's it called? Open Doors.
Yep.
Is a middleman.
Well, to me, they're only there to make sure these kids get paid. That makes sense?
Yeah, but they're taking. I mean, how do they make money? They're making presumably part of.
So the company, the endorser, pays Open Doors, and then Open Doors pays the kid based off of how much visibility, how much that thing got seen. Because I would assume the advertiser will pay based on how much numbers, how many times that video got seen. They'll pay it a penny per view or whatever it is, right? And then a certain percentage goes straight to the kid.
Yeah, the sponsored content part of it is just weird to me because there's so many people that a company will just say, "Hey, tweet out a picture of you holding this protein powder with the tweet. Here's the tweet that we want you to send."
Right.
And like, I don't understand why the
You got to work with
Open
Patrick's
Doors.
bandwidth. Maybe it's mine.
I don't understand why Open Doors needs to be a part of it. Like, when a company can just tell a kid, "Hey, take a picture of you holding our product and tweet it out."
I was kind of trying to read. Yeah, it's Tim that's kind of freezing up.
Yeah.
Got you guys back now.
Yeah.
And then Patrick just froze up, and Jen did as well. Oh, some fun Friday technical
Jen's not
issues.
freezing. Jen hasn't frozen for me.
We are back in. All right, you're back up.
Jeremy just hit me up at Timmill 1075. So we obviously got Gamecock baseball today, noon against Virginia, 11:45 airtime here on 1075 game. We also had the news from yesterday that there is a company out there partnering with dozens of athletic departments, including big time name brands. LSU and the SEC is the only one that I've seen from an SEC standpoint. Ohio State, Texas, Nebraska, BYU, Indiana. Open Doors is the name of the company, saying that college athletes will get paid for videos on Twitter. How much money would David Cloudy have made after the hit, Jeremy says? My guess, more than a few $100. See, well, this is where we have to break it down specifically. So these Twitter videos are not coming from the school. They're not coming from games. They're not coming from like a broadcast company. Not coming from ESPN or whatever. That's not where they're getting their name, image, likeness, money here, because that is basically controlled already. That's bought and paid for, right? That's part of what ESPN or CBS, the new ABC, Disney deal. That's what they're paying for. They get to use that video how they want to. That's not where you get your name, image, likeness, money from. You get it from videos that you produce, not your school, but your own videos that you produce. Patrick, you mentioned we see them a lot these days. Dabo Swinney starts dancing in the locker room. Well, what do the players do? They bust out their cell phones and they get the video of it. It's a video like that that would be a possibility in my mind. Where you're getting
confused, or where you're awfully fuzzy on this is how the sponsored content works, because that's where these guys are going to get paid. when you click on one of their videos, for the first 5, 15, 30 seconds, whatever it is, you're going to see an ad. And that's where the money's coming from. And to me, that's where is that where the gray area is hitting you?
Yeah, because if a guy just decides, hey, I'm going to take a video of the coach dancing in the locker room and tweet that out, no company has the right to just like take that and put it on a sponsored page instead. Like it's out on the kid's personal account. So unless they have a agreement in place beforehand, like, hey, after every game, you're going to film Dabo dancing or whatever, like it has to be something that's catered personally to you. That's why I don't understand the sponsored aspect of it, because if you're just advertising products, all you have to do is just say, hey, I'm going to take a picture with this thing, tweet out, big win today, thanks to so-and-so protein powder for keeping me like charged up and ready to play today. Or that's why Instagram, I'm saying it makes a lot of sense, because all I have to do is post a picture and say #ad. I'm a big fan of body art, #body armor, like whatever. It's just, I don't understand the way I read the article about the sponsored stuff is that like you can pitch ideas to build Twitter campaigns around the Sports Illustrated article is what I read, will allow brands to pitch ideas to compensate athletes for participating in Twitter video campaigns built around a selected theme. So that makes it seem like if you have a spur of the moment tweet, or I'm excited after the game and I'm taking a video of the dance party in the locker room, that's not a theme or a pitch or a campaign. It's just a spur of the moment video.
But that may raise your visibility because more people are going to be interested in that content, being able to do that. So then that's going to make you more valuable when you're pitched to those clients. So, I mean, I think
sure. So
anything, all of that.
Building your social media following in any way will be good for that. But in terms of these actual campaigns or the videos that you're going to see when you don't already follow a kid, it's not going to be a video that's just a spur of the moment fun thing that I wanted to film because I was excited after the game. It would be pre-coordinated.
I'm not clear that that's how it has to be. I get what you're saying, but why wouldn't a player sign their rights away to it and say, hey, if one of my videos gets a certain amount of clicks, then you're welcome to throw up your commercial beforehand and pay me for it.
Because one thing on the website for Open Doors, it does say with the athlete solutions, maximize your brand. The endorsement app athletes love. One compliant platform to understand your value, get free content, and then make real money. So they're being provided. It looks like they're being provided some kind of content. The athletes are.
Yeah. What you're saying about if it gets enough hits, then you can put an ad in front of it. That sounds like the YouTube model. That's never been the Twitter sponsorship model. Like whenever I'm scrolling through my Twitter and I see a sponsored ad, like I don't know how far I'd have to scroll right now to see something sponsored. So the first thing I see is New York Times is the sponsored thing on my page. Like it's meant to be there. Like it's not like a tweet that they put out and it says 2 hours ago this tweet went out and we put it on the sponsored side. Like that was only a sponsored ad. So I don't even know if it would appear on the kid's main Twitter page if you put out a video that was sponsored. Like that's where I'm not following this, because you can just as easily say, hey, so-and-so restaurant, pay me $100 and I'll take a picture of myself eating your food, or take a picture saying just got carry out from so-and-so or whatever. Like I don't necessarily understand the purpose of Open Doors in this whole equation.
We'll continue to discuss, try to figure things out when it comes to athletes getting paid for Twitter videos. Wow, a new world from that standpoint, from my perspective. Also, SEC free agency is here. I'll explain exactly why. And Gamecock baseball, the hours are ticking down, 4+ hours now, less than 4 hours away until our coverage starts at 11:45 of today's noon game, NCAA tournament regional game number 1, Carolina against Virginia. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game. No, John, I don't see that happening. I think once you turn pro, you have burned your college eligibility, I would imagine. That's a good question. I never really thought about it.
Wait,
Because the argument was, hey, once they get paid to play, right, that you're no longer amateur. But if amateur status has changed completely, do you rethink that? And yeah, DC, you're talking about a Central Florida kid who had a really popular social media. I think it was a YouTube following. But this is where, as I understand it, things aren't changing. That you can't still wear this like licensed gear and get paid off a bunch of videos.
Was he wearing UCF gear in the videos?
Yeah, well, I think it was him just like working out in some of the videos. Yeah. And he obviously just had the practice stuff on, you know, and I think that's what got him in trouble.
Because he quit football because of it.
Yeah, because he was making money. And he was just kicking off for Central Florida. Not exactly a direct path to NFL stardom.
No. But if Keyshawn Bryant wanted to do like dunk videos, make a YouTube channel of like, here, I'm doing a new dunk, that would have been previously no bueno. But I think that's okay now. Because you're not allowed to monetize off of your athletic ability like in any way. So I think if you were making a YouTube video of you playing sports and making money off of it, that still would have not been okay.
Would have not been okay, is that what you're saying?
I thought so, yeah. I didn't realize it was the licensing part for the UCF.
We had a caller say that he wondered, like, does their content have to be reviewed? You know, like if you're wanting to do an ad on Facebook, usually you have to put that in for review. Will the company say something has to be reviewed before they're actually going to let it go out, you know, or will they let this stuff be released instantaneously?
Reviewed by the school?
No, reviewed by the company itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Either Open Doors or the I would assume them. It'd take too long if you had to get, you know, Nike to approve it and Open Doors and stuff.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's maybe what these what do we call it? Consultant companies will be for another layer, right?
Yeah.
That will be their specific job.
And that's what I'm wondering, if that's what that Open Doors is all about. Like if that's kind of they have all the umbrella for all of those compliance aspects.
But I would think then instead of, you know, them being kind of like the corporation there, it would break down to the local level and there would be a specific representative from one of these consultant firms that have to approve or be responsible for the, you know, specific, football videos. Maybe there'll be, you know, one intern that has to look at those and click a button before.
Yeah, that's why I kind of got the impression that they seem like they're more like professionally produced like advertising campaigns versus.
Yeah, I don't think so, man. When it's got to be their video, and as opposed to school produced.
We're heading back in. It's going to be clunky for a while. Guys, are up.
I thought this was crazy at first, but the more I think about it, the more legitimacy it might have. John has this up on the YouTube live stream. Says with players getting paid now in college, will baseball players going straight to the pros out of high school, and skipping college, they don't do well. Will they have the option to go back to college now and play baseball? I read that.
First, like, no, of course you can't do that. Then they wouldn't be amateurs. But wait a second. We're changing the definition of what an amateur athlete is in college baseball.
Exactly.
Maybe rewrite that rule. I think it's worth thinking about for sure, because the old way of thinking about it now doesn't make any sense. If the reason you couldn't play in college is because you're getting paid for it, and now when you play in college, you aren't getting paid for it. What do you think, Patrick? Doesn't that make sense? Kind of. It hurts hurts my brain to even think about.
Yeah, but I think if you just become a professional baseball player, you can't just following that become a college baseball player. Like they'll probably just have to rewrite. They'll just have to rewrite the rules.
Paid too.
Yeah. 5.
We'll try to
This is Tom Wilson. You're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
All right. I think my internet issues might be solved. Sorry about that, guys. You got me all right, Patrick?
Yeah.
I think we blame your dad. He didn't have those issues until he was there.
Nice. Yeah, he's definitely a technical wizard. Sure. Explain it. Or the ESPN Plus versus SEC Network Plus is quite the breakdown with my parents. I always feel like I'm Seinfeld talking to his parents. My audio went rogue. I mean, did it go crazy, or did it just leave? I just get frozen. How did that work, Patrick, on your end?
You just dropped out of the screen. Yeah, you froze and dropped out. But I don't know what the audio sounds like because I'm just hearing you in the headset.
Gotcha.
I can still hear you okay.
Thanks for hanging in there, DC. Yeah, I know radio-wise we've been good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no problems. Sorry, it's refilling.
Today, if my kids don't come home with a foul ball, I think they're going to be disappointed.
Uh-oh.
I have to send them out to the berm there. Get them in the mix. The 6-year-old especially wants. The 8-year-old, I think, is going to be dialed into the game. The 6-year-old will be dialed into the game for about 3 minutes. And it's going to be about how much ice cream can I have? Want to go to the playground? What about the ball? What game? You talking about the game this afternoon, Mark? That noon night game? Attaboy. Yep, I'm in. Section 4, I think, is where my dad's got us sitting.
Yeah, because I looked on Ticketmaster earlier, and they didn't say anything was available, but I don't know if they're not running
Really?
it all.
I'm going to go through the Twitter account. Or they've been trying to. I'm going to go to Gamecock Baseball and see what it says. If it's sold out for a noon game, that is strong.
Well, I know. That's why I was surprised.
I'd be shocked. But I was also surprised that they did single game tickets at all. They used to just do these books for regionals.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Going through the Ticketmaster link right now.
Okay.
See tickets, noon Friday. Standing room only, it looks like, is all they got.
Okay.
Let's see. Sorry, tickets are currently not available.
Yeah.
Check back later. Okay, let's go to more info. Let's see what it says. No. So it just gives the telephone number. Yeah, it almost looks like just have to call instead of going through this site. Is what I'm seeing. And then the number is 777-4274 for tickets. That's what I'm seeing. So if anybody wants to be really industrious, Patrick, can you call that number real quick?
There you go.
What number?
777.
Yeah.
4274.
What is this number?
The one that Ticketmaster gave me.
And just see what it is. It like a
Yeah, see what happens. If it's USC, I think it's a USC number 777. I think it should be.
Calling the Gamecock ticket office. Our office is currently closed. Please note our hours of operation are.
Thank you for calling the Gamecock ticket office. Our office is currently closed.
I heard. When are they open? 9.
Oh,
Jim?
no. I know. I see it.
Thank you.
Correct.
9 to 5, and they said you can leave a voicemail. I don't know who's listening to those voicemails.
Hey, I'd like tickets. Call me.
Right.
Yeah.
Get in touch with me now. Shoot. Thought I dragged that one over. So 9 to 5. Okay.
So I'm going to try to retweet a link here. And then I don't think these links work so well in the live chat, but I'll try. This is Founders Park Stories by Mac. He sent a link. I guess he was on Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark's podcast and told some stories. No, I didn't get the right link. Oh, old man on technology.
Is this an old podcast or?
When did he say? A month ago, he said. Get it this time. Let me try one more time.
It's like Antonio Williams from Dutch Fork is doing an unofficial visit today.
Yeah, I saw that. Murphy, I guess is his stepdad is how that works. Bill alerted me to that. If you really want to get into recruiting weeds. And I saw he tweeted out yesterday starting with the home team or something like that.
Yeah, that kid is a stud. I don't get into the weeds anymore.
There we go. So just tweeted out Mac's link there. I think you actually got to copy and paste it to get it in your browser, but better than nothing, man.
Impressive work.
We've done a lot in this break. We've done a lot.
That's why I tried to screw up the top hour. It gave you about another minute. So you're welcome.
Like a true pro.
We needed it.
And we're back in the open.
So just 2 breaks this hour, right, Jim?
Yes, sir. And you just have 840 Beaufort Lending.
Got it. Did Bill record his, by the way? Or did we miss him?
I missed him. I'll
My
let
bad.
somebody know. All right, guys are up.
What a great day. Number one, Friday. Let's start there. Fridays are always good days. Well, typically good days. Number two, we're in June, and it's not 1,000 degrees in Columbia. How about that? That's big picture stuff. Back to more of our concern. Noon today, Gamecock baseball NCAA tournament at home. First time in 5 years. Name brand opponent, one of the best pitchers in the country, Andrew Abbott. Second in all of college baseball with strikeouts this year, 136. Not quite as ridiculous as the 101 number that Old Dominion brings to Columbia and will put on display, leading the country in home runs and setting a record with the BB-Core bats. But kind of atypically, the Gamecocks not playing in the primetime game tonight at Founders Park, playing in that noon game because of television. That was the pick. Going to be on ESPN2. South Carolina, Virginia. Andrew Abbott versus Brett Carey. Tremendous pitching matchup. And really much more important, I think, to Mark Kingston and his coaching staff, as opposed to Brian O'Connor and Virginia, who they won a national championship. They are the only ACC school to have won a championship in the last, 60 years? What it was. Wake Forest was the only one before that. Took forever for another one. Brian O'Connor, a popular name amongst Gamecock fans, I think, in that post-Chad Holbrook coaching search that ended up with Mark Kingston, a guy that most of us were very unfamiliar with and not necessarily a national name like Kevin O'Sullivan was at the time where he led Florida to that national championship. Like Brian O'Connor, we've seen the Omaha native going back to his hometown and winning the national championship for Virginia. A guy and a program the Gamecocks faced in that 2011 national championship run and beat a couple of times. Coming into Columbia as a 3 seed, struggled relatively early on, playing their best baseball though, 10-5 in their last 15. The Gamecocks just 7-8, losing 4 out of the last 5 SEC series, going 1-out at the SEC tournament. But having played, I think it depends where you look at, but one of, if not the most competitive schedule in the country. So, in my opinion, Patrick, Mark Kingston and company win this NCAA regional. There is only one way to look at this season, and that's successful. They don't get out of this regional, and I think it's logical and reasonable to be concerned about the direction of the Gamecock program. Now, I think it's moving in a positive direction. And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because how much damage, for lack of a better word, I think there's probably a better word out there. How big a detriment was switching coaches from Chad Holbrook after 4 or 5 years of not getting back to the College World Series and missing, I think it was 5 years technically, missing the NCAA tournament 2 of those 5 years. A couple super regional appearances and 1 regional appearance, I believe is the Chad Holbrook resume. When you change coaches, no matter the sport, there's going to be a drop-off from recruiting just because relationships are broken and a new coaching staff comes in. And having Mark Kingston come in with virtually no SEC experience or ties was an interesting move. Now, this year, I think we've seen talent upgraded, especially from the pitching perspective, where the Gamecocks, one of the best in the country in strikeouts this year, towards the top of the SEC in a lot of pitching categories. Offensively, outside of home runs, where the Gamecocks, I think, top 10 in the country this year, maybe 8. Maybe that might be the teams left in the NCAA tournament now. Outside of that, numbers have been a bit of a struggle for Carolina, been towards the bottom of the SEC, especially when it comes to a batting average standpoint. But at times, this team has shown, you got single wins against some of the best programs in the country. Didn't win the series against Arkansas, did beat them one game. Didn't win the series against Vanderbilt, did come back on the road and win that last game. Mississippi State, the example at home in that avoiding the sweep extra inning game on Sunday as well. So you can kind of make the case one way or the other. But in my opinion, if you win a regional, you get to the Sweet 16, college baseball's version of the Sweet 16. I don't think those complainers out there have a whole lot of legitimacy, I think it would be more sour grapes and still struggling to feel good about men's programs in general after struggles in football and basketball have kind of mounted over the last several years. So that's why I think today is such a big game from the Gamecock perspective, Patrick, and Mark Kingston and his coaching staff particularly, because you want to keep things going in a positive direction. And when you're in charge of such a perennial powerhouse program like Carolina, the standards are very high, very high. But South Carolina baseball is not supposed to be the number 2 seed compared to Old Dominion. They're supposed to be one of the best 16 programs in the country and host regionals and get to Super Regionals in the College World Series. And it's been 8 years since a trip out to Omaha. And from a Gamecock fan perspective, that's plenty long enough. It's time to break the trend. You obviously can't break that trend if you lose a regional. When you lose a regional at home, I think it hurts even more from the fan perspective. We saw that in the Chad Holbrook era when Maryland came in and did that. Old Dominion, I think, just unfortunately from their perspective, a name brand recognition, it's the best year they've had in their school history. But the way the college baseball works is we haven't seen them on national TV. Man, we can't really appreciate 101 home runs. I get it that they had a pretty dramatic run in the Conference USA tournament, and one of their best hitters, if not their best hitter, hit an extra inning home run to win that thing. And for the relative few that followed that program, they've had a heck of a year, but that's not a national story at all for us.
They didn't play a Power 5 team all year.
They were set to play Virginia, right? That one got rained out, and that was maybe the only one on the schedule. But this is where it gets really tricky, because you said a Power 5 team. Conference USA finished 5th in the RPI rankings as a conference in college baseball this year. So from the Old Dominion standpoint, say, what do you mean we didn't play a Power 5 opponent? We are a Power 5 opponent.
Well, from the SEC, but it's almost like, well, you didn't play an SEC team because they're just so much better than everyone else. It doesn't even matter. Like, you can look at Virginia basically and say, like, your schedule is nothing compared to what we just faced.
And yet the ACC has 8 schools in the NCAA tournament. The SEC has 9. So now is the time where you earn your reputation as a conference, as a program, right? You gotta win in the postseason when it matters the most. And today it matters the most for Gamecock baseball starting at noon. And that's why Brett Carey is on the mound. And that's why Virginia's countering with their ace and Andrew Abbott. You win game 1, you're 2 wins away from college baseball's Sweet 16. You win game 2, and your percentage chance of winning that regional goes way up if you go 2-0. The odds of somebody coming back through the losers bracket, really tough. So that's why today is so important from the Gamecock perspective, and I know a lot of Gamecock fans are looking forward to it for sure. Right before the top hour break, the question was asked by John on the YouTube live stream. With players getting paid now, we talked about how there's now a Twitter agreement in place yesterday. That news coming out. There's a company out there partnering with athletic departments across the country, including LSU, Nebraska, Ohio State. Open Doors is the name of the company. They're setting it up to where college athletes put out videos and get paid for it. American John said, with players getting paid now, well, baseball players going straight to the pros out of high school, they don't make it to the majors. They don't do well. Well, they have the option to go back to college and play. And when I first read that, I was like, no, of course not. But thinking about it a little bit more, well, the NCAA is having to rewrite the rules of amateurism because of this name, image, likeness deal, because players are now getting paid. Porter hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line and breaks it down a little bit further. 803-404-6100 is the number. You can call or text us. College players are technically not getting paid to play a sport, Porter says. They're getting paid for name, image, and likeness. A baseball player that gets drafted is actually getting paid to play. However, after that distinction, Porter throws in his opinion, says, I think if a kid doesn't make it past a certain level, like AAA, is under the age of 23 or so, should be able to come to college and play. That's my take. Patrick, why in this country have we made it there's such a stigma, I feel like. And this is part of that Johnny Manziel story that came out yesterday, right? He said he made a decent living selling his autograph. $30,000, $33,000. One instance of $3,000, and somebody came to him and said, "You're getting ripped off. I'll pay you $30,000." That's what he got paid. Now, breaking the rules is what we have a problem with there. What about now that we're rewriting the rules? Because I think we would have, in my mind, I came at John's thought even. I said, no, of course you can't go get paid and then come back to college. Well, basically in anything in life, you can do that except for sports. And I think because we've always equated getting paid to cheating is why we have such a problem with it, to answer my own question. But then some more of you guys have brought up other concerns now. Tiger Bob on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. My concern is a student athlete can make a lot of money. Is he responsible enough to handle the money? These are 18 to 20-year-olds. I see problems. Well, of course there are going to be some problems. But isn't it kind of the American way that you get what you're worth? Well, why do we have such a problem with it in college sports?
There's so many athletes, not just people that are rich at 18. There's so many athletes that are rich at 18. That's like, for that to be your concern, it's just like, what? None of your business how much money a kid has. Like, what?
But that's
that
where
it be a concern.
But that's where it is a little different, right, Patrick? If you are a booster in a program and you're putting your own money in, or you're just a ticket buyer and you're paying money to watch them play, like it does become some of your concern, I think, to know how much of that money is going to a specific player, right? Then don't you have kind of stock invested in a certain way. That's certainly the way it is in pro sports, right? If whoever for the Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton, making a ton of money, right? And you're a season ticket holder and Stanton struggles, I think you're going to be much more disappointed in that, frustrated at that, mad at that than you would be with a guy who's not making nearly as much money. That makes sense in pro sports, right? So doesn't that kind of trickle down now if college athletes are going to start making money? Isn't that only natural kind of a human nature to go that way from the fan perspective?
Kind of, but I mean, I think it's more of an issue in like football, like NFL football, because there's a salary cap. And that's the reason that I would be complaining, hey, this guy's making $10 million a year and he had like 26 tackles in the season. He's not playing up to his contract. But the only reason I care about a guy not playing up to his contract is because there's a cap and our money could be better spent. If it's a college kid and we know, hey, he's making $1,500 a month to do commercials for this company, what I'm not worried about how much money he's making. I guess there's always going to be someone that's upset by it, but
so is it just jealousy then?
It sounds like it. For some reason, people just don't want kids to prosper financially. I really don't get it. I don't understand that part of it, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, the notion that a lot of the reason that we love college sports, put me in this category too, is because it is a purer version of a game. You play for the love of the game, not a paycheck.
Yeah, sure.
I think a lot of us identify with that, especially those of us who never got to that level of a Division I big-time scholarship athlete. And you take that away, you change the relationship between player and fan. Or I shouldn't take that away, but you're changing that basically agreement now with name, image, and likeness and guys getting paid. Another Cool Care Heating and Air text in from the Cocky Codger says, you guys are just scratching the surface on problems that paying college kids will cause. He says that dancing idiot up in Pickens County, again, Cocky Codger's words, not mine, is going to be vindicated. He said we shouldn't go down this road. Just my opinion, humble as always. Cocky Codger. The problem I have with that is Dabo Swinney's making how much? $9 million a year?
Yeah.
Why does he get all the money and the players get none of it? That doesn't make any sense. I get it. There are going to be issues, but let's take it one step further. What are these issues going to ultimately cause, I guess, that is going to be such a problem? Like, everybody's got problems with when you make money, you have other things that come with it, right? You got to pay taxes. You have differences, discrepancies amongst a staff, right? Wherever you work, there's somebody probably making more money than you there. Guess what? That's life. I don't see that as a huge problem. I see that as life. Their value, according to the company, might be more than yours, and you got to deal with that. And to say that 18-year-olds can't deal with that and the rest of the adult world can, that doesn't make any sense to me. Unless we're changing the age of military eligibility, I don't get that. Like, 18-year-olds can join the military. They can certainly handle making money as college athletes. Let's get more of your opinions out there on the Love Chevy phone lines. TC up first at 803-404-6100. Good morning, TC. Doing well, you?
All righty. Well, I think one of the reasons they're changing because they see they're losing control of the money situation. And my example is Clemson football. I've noticed since Clemson's hit their winning streak, I've watched two of the more popular athletes on the team, their girlfriends have these social media apps, Instagram and TikTok. And I've seen the girlfriends, by virtue of being associated with that athlete, go from 0 followers to a couple million followers. And I'll give you an example. Trevor Lawrence's now wife, when she was his girlfriend, she had no followers. Trevor start winning. She goes with a couple million followers. Then she's getting high dollar sponsors. I mean high dollar sponsors. I'm not talking about the local fried chicken place paying her a couple dollars to run an ad on her site. She's getting major sponsors, and the only reason she's getting those sponsors is because she's associated with this athlete. And so she found, and these girls are finding ways to monetize their relationship. And if I'm that athlete, I know, hey, sweetheart, the only reason you're getting this money is because you're associated with me, and I'm appearing. And of course, these guys are appearing in these TikTok and these Instagram posts. So if I'm behind the scene, I'm the athlete, I'm like, okay, this money's rolling in. I want a 60-40 split. Because there's another young lady up there, same situation. You know, just almost no followers. She's associated with this guy. He's still on the team. She's got 2 million followers. And she's talking about how her TikTok money has just bought her a new Jeep Rubicon, which this thing, if they're all tricked out, it can cost $75,000. And her popularity is directly related to her association with him, because he's in almost every one of these TikToks. You go to the comment section, he's all everybody's talking about. And again, she's got high dollar sponsorships. So if I'm him behind the scenes, I'm like, hey, I want a 60-40 split, maybe a 75-25 split, because if not, I'll find another cute girl on campus who will make the same content, and that money starts coming in again. So how can NCAA, and the app is in the girl's name, I'm sure the checks are coming in the girl's name, so how's the NCAA control for that? Because they're making money, because they start talking, because they can't help themselves, they start talking about the money they're making. You know, my sponsors for this eye makeup, my sponsors for the place where I buy these shoes and these dresses or these swimsuits. And because this one girl just bought this Jeep, she talked about it. She said, look at my new Jeep that I bought with my TikTok money. She just said it out loud. And I see the guy sitting there, the player. You know, I'm thinking to myself, now, if I'm here off camera, I'll say, hey, I need to get a split of this money because I'm the reason why. Without me, you have no followers. Without the followers, you have no sponsorship. And without the sponsorships, you don't have this new Jeep Rubicon.
Okay, TC, I got a couple of questions for you. Number one, Can you give me your current relationship status?
Oh, well, I'm married.
How long?
32 years.
How long?
32 years.
Oh, all right. Fantastic.
32 years.
That makes me feel good. All right, TC, number 2. Why do you know about these girls on TikTok and social media stuff?
Because I start noticing that. That's what I'm saying. I'm going around. I'm looking because I'm a fan of both teams, Carolina and Clemson. And so because I follow the teams on Facebook, they're everybody calls it algorithm. I'm 63 years old. I'm assuming you guys are right. We say algorithms or whatever. But because I follow these guys on the team on Facebook, Carolina and Clemson's they're stuff about them are constantly popping up on my stuff on my phone. For instance,
Feeds. Gotcha.
if I hit my Google Chrome, the first third on top of it, I've got one about politics, something else, business, economics. But Clemson is right at the top along with Carolina. They pop up first for anybody else, and it's not even football season. I'm more concerned about what's going on in Washington D.C., but they pop up there. So
Okay.
I click on them, and I notice. And
That leads to my
I'm a
third question.
businessman.
TC,
Yeah.
my third one was, I know what you said. You think this is why the NCAA is doing this because they're losing some control of the money. But you and I both know that last part that you mentioned, it's this political pressure is the only reason that the NCAA is going to change here, because these states, these politicians have gotten in on this, understand it's a way that they can increase their popularity and get voted back in. You're with me on that, right?
Well, yeah, sure. That's part of it too. But again, I think the big part is, again, if you have some little country girl who, like I said, nobody knew who she was until she started dating the star athlete, then all of a sudden she's telling you about, because that's what happened. I look at it, and I'm a business person. I'm a self-employed business person. I've been fortunate to be successful. I've been in business for myself almost 15 years now. So I understand the money game. I understand how much money I pay for advertising with my company. So I'm looking at it. I'm saying, wait a minute, this person's got how many followers? I mean, these girls have more followers than your typical network TV show on a Friday, a show on NBC, ABC, CBS. They'll have less followers than these teenage people on these apps have. And of course, advertising is all about the number of eyes you can bring to a product, just like you guys. That's why you have a rating. If you could tell Coca-Cola you bring X number of people to the show, you can charge more if you bring more eyes. I mean, it's a very simple formula. So same thing here. They say, hey,
TC,
I bring
we
3
hear
million
you.
people. Yes,
We
sir.
hear you. Appreciate the phone call.
We got it. I mean,
how about what Dogman's saying? We're fixing to have the Real College Football Campus Girlfriends reality show. I think what TC is telling us is that he's already more successful than most television shows in getting eyeballs.
Yeah. I mean, Trevor Lawrence's wife now has 310,000 followers. I don't know if she was making money off of Instagram while he was in college, because she was also a college soccer player.
Right.
But I mean, like, his point is sort of well taken in that regard, because she was obviously famous because she was taking pictures with Trevor Lawrence all the time. And like, Trevor Lawrence has how many Instagram followers? Probably in the millions at this point. No, just under 1 million. So, I mean, when he takes a picture with his girlfriend, and it, like, you will see pictures on her page. I was just scrolling through because I was interested in his point, where they're both in college and she's like taking a picture with him and tagging the clothing brand that she's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if she's getting paid. She didn't put #ad, which I think you might have to do. If it's
I
an
think she
Instagram
was
ad.
hoping to get, like I think she was starting.
But at the very least, I mean, she's like representing brands on her
We need a break.
page with pictures of Trevor Lawrence. Like, she's at the games, tagging the sunglasses she's wearing, tagging the necklace she's wearing, tagging everything, the salon that she gets her hair done at. So, I mean, it is kind of an interesting twist.
Which camp are you in? Ken, Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Absolutely no, in all caps. College student athletes should be paid for any reason. This name, image, likeness stuff is nuts. The athletes get plenty. Free food, room and board, books, any other things that he or she may need, period. I sure hope this doesn't ruin college sports. Anonymous texter, 2 minutes after Ken sent that text in. It's all hate. College always wants control. Those days are over. Pay them. 803-404-6100. If you'd like to get your opinion in, you can call or text. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game. The Game is on everywhere. On the air, online, on your phone or tablet, on the app, Alexa, in the shower with you.
From the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com. Just a couple accidents to let you know about. Kaiser Road at Flat Springs Road. And also Peoples Street at Monticello Road. Traffic lights currently malfunctioning in that area. Weather-wise, chance for some showers today, tomorrow, and Sunday. Just some spotty storms here and there. 87 for the high today. 85 for the high tomorrow, and Sunday looking like it'll be about 87 right now. 72 with some broken clouds at 107.5 The Game.
My bad. I love the amount of annoyance in your voice there about that, Bob.
What?
Can't hear you. You're.
I didn't know you could hear me. Did you hear me saying that?
Yeah, I got you.
That guy was, I mean, not a terrible point to begin with, but dude.
He's fired up.
Stop talking. He spent the first 10 minutes of his call saying the same thing 5 different ways.
Yeah.
And then just
trying to send it home, man.
Once we got to the Jeep Rubicon, I was like, yeah, dude, you're saying the same thing, just using a different product.
That's very specific.
5th time. Stop it. That was.
Wow. Harsh. He's fired up.
No good.
But it was almost like you took it a little personally. Like I love the way where you were going with the questions, Tim, because it's like, okay, have you been impacted by these girls that are doing this? Because he just almost seemed a little bitter by it.
That's definitely not uncommon though. Girls that get like in certain markets, like Instagram famous for dating athletes. That's for sure a thing.
And I can tell you what, no.
But they make money from it. I mean, there's plenty of girls that if you just have a couple thousand followers, which is very easy for a young, attractive girl to rack up, you can start making money. So.
Yeah, but to use somebody that's using somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe you care about them and stuff like that, but there's a fine line there.
Yeah, that's what social media is.
That's what Max said. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, that's completely true.
Yeah.
And that's like girls want, if a girl's dating an athlete with a lot of followers, like she's going to ask him, like, take a picture and tag me in it. And that's.
I still have to be able to sleep at night.
I know several girls from Carolina that were dating like pretty high level athletes or pretty well known athletes, and you would see they're always posting pictures of the boyfriend, and the boyfriend never posts pictures with the girl.
Didn't we have a quarterback?
There's one who's an NFL quarterback that I know that was the case.
Yeah.
Come on, let's hear it.
Jacob Eason's girlfriend went here, and that was the case.
Good call, Hope. So now, the theory always used to be, make sure you marry a person that knew you before your money, right?
Right.
So now that, I mean, because don't think this is not trickling down to high school, right? I mean, I had a kid sitting out his high school senior season.
Yeah.
In Texas, the running back there. So now high school girls, I'm sure, will know what college girls are doing.
But
if their boyfriend in high school is a big time recruit, don't think they won't try to be getting in on the action.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. Like Trevor Lawrence is obviously they're like high school sweethearts,
Right.
On one hand,
But,
Trevor
but
Lawrence
what I'm
was
saying is
he was 16 years old.
that high school relationship was before this to a certain degree, right? So now you the only way you can ensure that it's true love with no money involved is middle school, elementary school.
Right.
Where you gonna go? You got to know each other in kindergarten.
Is it bad to use each other? Like, I don't know. If a football player loves his girlfriend, is it bad for her to use his clout
right
to make more money off? Like, is that a bad thing? It's just kind of
Well, don't we do that in life in general?
use each other. Yeah.
Line from I think it's from Entourage. It's like everyone has advantages, right? You got an advantage in some kind of area and use it to the utmost degree.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Tim's wife did. You know, she saw a big paycheck and she's like, I'm on.
Huge.
Yep.
Why I'm sitting in my garage right now.
But yeah, just because a girl
we're back
a girlfriend gets tagged in a post and gets more followers out of it doesn't mean that their relationship is any less legit. But
we still gotta call her, Jen.
Yes, we do. I guess right.
Conversation's so fascinating that the live stream conversation keeps going while the intro music plays on the radio. You want to be a part of that thing on video, check out YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter as well, at 1075 The Game on the station handle where you can get that video stream sponsored by Buford Lending. A new Twitter deal, a new company out there has a Twitter deal with certain athletic departments already signed up. Ohio State, LSU, Nebraska, the most notable ones, right? And the quote right now is the difference between a video right now and a video this fall for certain student athletes is a video in the fall that they produce, that they have an agreement with, that's going to get them compensation directly to that student athlete. So we're seeing this name, image, likeness thing play out before our eyes. Some of you like it, some of you do not. Some of you think this is the exact antithesis of college athletics. Some of you are more like me and say, hey, man, there's already a ton of money in college sports and has been for a long time. It's just the coaches, the athletic directors, the assistant coaches have been able to keep it all. Giving the players some of it, I got no problem with that. Matt in West Columbia says there's a simple equation. If the sport makes money, give a percentage of that money to the athletes playing the sport. Sport doesn't make money, you don't give them any money. I agree, Matt. Why can't it be that simple? I get it that this is an area that we've never been into. But as soon as the NCAA men's basketball tournament started making billion-dollar deals, shouldn't an adult in the room have stood up and said just what Matt said? Hey, guys, this is great that we're making all the money, but shouldn't we give a certain percentage? I mean, couldn't they stood up and said 10%? Can't 10% go to the athletes? It's pretty. Let's just set it up. 10%. Pay each single 12 athletes. You get 12 scholarships. Is that right? 15, whatever it is. Hey, just send it their way. They can cash that check after they graduate. But if they had done that, back when the first $1 billion deal was done several years ago, I think you could have avoided a lot of stuff. And now with name, image, and likeness, it's getting into an interesting area for sure. There are a lot of different issues. I don't see these issues necessarily as problems, Patrick. I think that's where some of you are coming from. Oh, it's opening a Pandora's box, right? That's the Dabo Sweeney line. As soon as guys get paid, then I'm out of here. And he's like, oh, no, I'm cool with name, image, likeness. Don't worry. We're good with that. As he's making $9 million plus a year. And the guys that are making plays are making cost of attendance. Is that what we're calling it now? Right? They're finally getting some free meals, maybe getting a stipend check if they qualify for a Pell Grant or something for a couple of $1,000 per month. We got a lot of patient people waiting to get into this conversation. Steven's up next on the Love Chevy phone line, 803-404-6100. Appreciate the patience, Steven. Go ahead, sir. Okay,
That's illegal.
let's stop.
Well, that's illegal, first of all. And
Steven lost me at millions of dollars.
well, he lost me. The star quarterback's not going to come to practice, and the star quarterback's going to retire after college. Well, the NFL doesn't exist anymore. The kid's not going to want to go to the NFL at this point.
And the idea that you're not going to have respect for your coach because you make more money than them. First of all, if you're that kind of person, you're going to be like that anyway.
Right.
How many college coaches have had issues, position coaches, of not having the respect of their players? That's already happening, especially for guys who feel like they're bona fide first-round draft picks to begin with. I don't see that problem happening like Steven was talking about, and especially not at that point early on. To me, I always go back to, lottery winners, right? I think the overwhelming majority of lottery winners, their happiness in life after they win the lottery turns out to be their happiness in life before they won the lottery, right? If they were unhappy people, winning the lottery doesn't change that. If they were relatively happy and stable people before, guess what? They can handle having the money. Now, if you want to tell me that fast forwarding the process by 4 years or whatever it is going to be a big problem. To me, why do we always point out just the problems? The good things here. How about the fact that these $1 million, these most big time athletic departments have been generating hundreds of millions of dollars, and yet they haven't been educating their players on how to handle money.
Exactly.
What a crime. What an absolute sham. Especially these guys that have gone to the NFL. Guess what? You know who doesn't want them educated in money? Everybody's taking their money. Agents, especially. That's been a real crime here in the last however many decades. I mean, watch what broke. Was that the 30 for 30?
Yeah.
Watch that thing and not get angry at the way the system's set up. So let's not act like it's a perfect system. And for those of you complaining that now that players are going to get paid, then programs are going to have advantages over other programs and get all the good players. What has been happening in college football for the last at least 10, 15 years? You telling me Alabama doesn't already get the best players? Clemson doesn't already get the best players? Georgia? LSU? Ohio State? Get out of here with that garbage. There are problems for sure, but there are also some benefits. I got no problem with minor problems popping up and guys who are actually doing the work getting paid for it. To me, that's been the overwhelming problem with this college sports model of student athletes and supposed amateurism. Come on, man. Now, I get it if you're fearful that the game that we know and love, I'm in that category, man. I love college football. We talk about it every day. I love college basketball. I love college baseball. I'm going to be there at noon today. I don't want to see those things go away, but if you're just afraid of change, if you think every single change is going to be the ruin of everything, that's a tough way to live, man. And I don't see a Twitter deal between an athletic department and now students getting paid for videos completely bringing the institution of college athletics down. It's going to change things. There are going to be some issues for sure, but let's have a little confidence in people being able to figure it out. Dale says you start paying players, ticket prices will go up.
How do you?
Dale, have you bought a ticket anytime soon? Anytime recently? I disagree that ticket prices are going to go up because I think big time programs know if you keep jacking ticket prices up from where they are already, where you're already struggling to bring in people, you're going to alienate more people there. He says he has bought tickets recently. Well, then there's only so far you can go, man. I mean, and when you have $50 million facilities for teams already sitting at the University of South Carolina, when you have a $21 million upgrade for the Williams-Brice Stadium, your ticket prices have gone up because of it, right? Or donors have been asked to write bigger checks. I don't think this all results in just the fan getting hit from this. I think where it should come out of are these. How much did the SEC network dole out, or the SEC dole out for each university? Was it $40 million?
Yeah.
How about that's where you start taking some of this? And maybe you don't have to have the absolute nicest, brightest, ridiculously updated and modern facilities. Maybe some of that money goes in players' pockets instead of having hyperbaric chambers or whatever else these facilities now feel like they have to have because the other ones have, and you have to have recruiting advantages in the whole deal. Why can't we change the way we're thinking about this thing instead of how we've always thought about it? Oh, hope, great news. 760 subscribers now on the 107.5 The Game YouTube channel. Do we get any money for being a part of this live stream? She asks. Perfectly. Well done, Hope. Patrick is working on a deal with an outside company to have it all. Deal still in the works. We'll see. And guess what? Guess what, Hope?
DraftKings is paying me thousands of dollars to curse on the air.
That will last very long. About a day. @ Patrick Perrette, where you can follow him on Twitter, though. I'm at Tim Hill 1075. She's at Jen Jensen Morse. Dramatic conclusion of the week ahead of today's noon NCAA tournament baseball game. 11:45 airtime here on 107.5 The Game. What a week it's been. It's the early game here on 107.5.
It's a new year. They're hungry, they're driven, and new.
Oh, I got Buford Lending here. All right, let me get rid of this. Get rid of my face. That'll help everybody. Talking a little bit more about money today than usual. How about this? If you're looking to save money on your weekly, most of us do it a monthly payment, right? When it comes to a mortgage, maybe you're looking to refinance, you're looking for a second home right now, or you're looking for a new home. Buford Lending is the place to go for all of your lending needs. Benji Getzi and his team have been doing it since 1997, and they have experience with all of those things. What if you're a veteran? Well, VA loans right now on fire. Benji tells me the record rates right now in the low 2s. No money out of pocket, no income, no appraisal needed. Refinance up to 90% of your value. All kind of options when you pair with an experienced lender like Benji Getzi and Buford Lending. I have personal experience here. I'm trying to look into maybe selling the current home, upgrading, expanding. Now that I got the third child there, need a little bit more room. Benji has been there for me, and I know he can be there for you as well when you need an experienced lender on your side, and the numbers right now are outstanding. Give Benji a call. Buford Lending, 843-524-2404. Write down that number. Buford Lending, 843-524-2404.
And
Mute there, Patrick. Can you click that button?
People's Street at Monticello Road. And weatherwise, could have a pop-up shower here and there throughout.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. This is all irrelevant to the name of the
exactly.
5 tomorrow. Right now, just some broken
It's not like you were talking about going further and expanding it to players getting paid by the universities.
No, I just meant all the money out there.
Well, yeah, because Dale's point is just completely. Do you think universities they're not taking a cut because they're not the ones paying them? So it's a completely erroneous point to begin with.
Well, I think it can be an issue when companies are choosing to pay athletes directly for their name, image, and likeness instead of partnering with university, right? Instead of,
I mean,
Yes.
I don't really think so though at this level because it's like those companies can't afford to pay for university sponsorship on the university level or to pay to have their billboards in the stadium, but they can pay to have a kid come to their place for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon and sign autographs. Like, or
Yeah,
they can
but
pay someone 20. Yeah.
but you really get hurt if a big time entity decides not to go with university and decides to go cut the middleman out basically and go with the star quarterback or the star whatever, Clowney back in the day.
Yeah, but that, yeah, I mean, if a big company is paying a kid of like with household name value tens of thousands of dollars, that's one thing. But I think for the most part, it's just going to be a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. Whereas to get a sign in Williams-Brice Stadium, it's what, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow, Duquesne did that, Ryan? That's fascinating to me. I guess maybe a men's basketball player at Duquesne might be able to make some money, but I would be shocked if nobody else can. Maybe just local camps and stuff.
Yeah.
Saw Jabari Ellis is hosting a Juneteenth celebration in his hometown. Maybe things like that. I don't know.
Well, that's just I don't think he's making any money off of that. The camp should be easy, though. It's crazy that the kids can't make money off camps.
Exactly.
When I was
skills.
Yeah. When I was playing college lacrosse, our assistant coach would run recruiting camps, and literally, like, we would run the camps, we would run the drills, throw passes, and all that stuff, and then he would just keep the money. Like, none of the money had to go to the schools. He would run his own little recruiting camp, so you can get recruited by the defensive coordinator, and he can look at you, and then he just shove $1,500 in his pocket every weekend. Like,
and you got nothing.
No.
Yeah. That's correct. We're going to have very little time coming back.
Thank you, Jen. What you got? What you drinking? Paulus wants to know. Apparently, he's in the 107.5 The Bar podcast or the live stream.
Yeah, coffee? Yeah, it's coffee. I was struggling between like 3 and 5 this morning.
Oh, strong.
Definitely full pot of coffee day today.
Now you're about to crash for sure.
Yeah, it's probably not a good thing that I just finished this, and I'll easily be able to go to sleep in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm kind of too. DC, thanks for tuning in from the beginning. Thank you, Anthony. I will be charging $11 billion. Or we'll just do it live on YouTube. What a fun show. What a fun day. Typically, I don't like getting into these discussions about finance, paid players, and the whole thing, but with real world applications coming so quickly, with real news, a real agreement in place between a company and athletic departments and Twitter videos getting paid and the whole thing, it's been a fun discussion. Baseball should be a lot of fun this weekend. Looking forward to talking to you about it on Monday. Bill Gunter after today's noon game here on 107.5 The Game. Thanks for listening to the early game. You got close there, Jim? You got close? Wallace, thanks, man. Patrick, appreciate you fighting through. Nice work.
Thanks. I guess we can talk after the stream about the weekend.
Good call. Yeah, I've got it scheduled right now. I'll mention that in a second, but saying goodbye to you guys on the live stream. I don't know if Bill's going to pull it up this afternoon or not. I doubt he will, but keep an eye out for that. I think he's planning on doing basically after the game until about 6 tonight. And then we're taking the Braves game, Braves and Dodgers. Appreciate all you guys chiming in this morning. And hope you have a great weekend. See you on Monday.